The meeting of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It is Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. We're at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School Library, and it is 7 p.m. And we are going to do the pledge, but we have a special guest to do this pledge this evening. And it is Emma Pulchalski with her teacher, Mr. Gametto, and the principal, Mrs. Desto.
Thank you.
And we'll all stand.
Everybody stand. Ready?
Papa, my name is...
Ready? Come on, look. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was great. Good job. Yeah.
I love the little voices.
I love it.
And I'm going to move up the student spotlight before anything else this evening. So we'll start with number Roman numeral 6, student spotlight, Mason Road School.
Mrs. Desto may want to introduce it.
And she will, Mrs. Desto.
Mrs. Desto, would you like to introduce it?
So we bring to you tonight a very amazing, smart, excitable group of young, creative minds who have been working really, really hard in their kindergarten classrooms. We've been working on the Boston K-2 curriculum, which incorporates a lot of hands-on project-based learning. And these students were given the chore of coming up with some type of a project that would be proposed to the town of Dudley that would make our town a better place. So you can only imagine the creativity that has gone into these things, and I do think that some of the boys and girls here tonight would love to propose some of the things they have in their projects for Mason Road School. Right, guys?
Yes.
All right. So we have Mrs. Hooper, Mrs. Gajewski, Mrs. Savoy, and Mrs. Provost who are here to help the students.
A little bit of the background on this. We start with K2, starts off with community. So we really learn how to follow rules and routines, how to follow procedures, what being a member of a community is like. From there we go into animals and habitats. From animals and habitats we carry into construction, which carries into our earth. So this is what you see in front of you is accumulation of beautiful stuff. And thank you to moms and dads for your donations of boxes and tape and all of these wonderful things. If you want to keep them entertained, give them some boxes and some tape, and it's a beautiful rainy day. In 3 hours, you will have something fantastic, I promise you. So, as Mrs. Desto said, the students were charged with finding a way that they could make Dudley a better, more fairer place for children. And some of the ideas they came up with were fantastic. And these are the final projects. They had to work through a planning phase. They had to sketch. We had to dialogue. They were faced with challenges, sometimes with teammates. They had to understand how to negotiate getting ideas across in a proper way. So learning on so many multiple levels to the point, it's just, this is kindergarten assessment right here. This is their final end product. So this is Abby. And Abby was with Yusuf, Anthony, and Evan. Abby is representing tonight, and they built a family zone. So these are children's words. This will be a place for grown-ups and kids to go when they have no family. It costs no money. I get a little, pardon me. It costs no money. You can bring your animals. Robots will clean it. There will be cameras for security. There are 2 pools, a path, a grassy area. You go here to make friends if you are homeless or you have no family. So these are their thoughts. These are their worries, their concerns for their community. So Abby, can you tell everybody the part that you did? What part did you create here?
I made the cat.
She made the cats. So there are cats on the path in this area here.
I talked to grass.
All right, excellent. Good job. don't move very well.
Dad,
Mrs. Gajewski, you
Dad.
want to go next? Mrs. Gajewski's going to head up next so we can all take a line.
Would you two gentlemen like to help me, please?
Dad,
All right, so the same thing happened in our class. Same background, same curriculum was taught. And these two gentlemen were paired up together, and they both came this evening to present you with their, what did we create, gentlemen? A hotel treehouse. And the hotel is for people who don't have homes here in Dudley. It does not cost any money. Why do we have stairs incorporated into your hotel, in your treehouse?
so everyone can go up so they can
Go inside the treehouse? Yeah, so people who were having a hard time using the ladder, they could use the stairs. What other things do we have in your treehouse hotel? What is this blue thing that you can tell?
go up to
They have a pool, they have a zip line not only for adults and children, but one for babies as well that is running around. Dylan, could you tell us something that you added to your creation?
we added the pink string.
The pink ribbon, and what about these that you made and taped down so lovely? They're trees, and why do we need trees at the Treehouse Hotel?
For kids to climb and have fun.
Yep, so a place where kids can climb, have fun. I think you told me hide and seek as well. Michael, is there anything special on your creation that you want to tell the audience about?
I made the tree house.
You made, this is the actual treehouse, and this is the hotel where the people can sleep. So they can get there through zip lining or through stairs. Nice job, guys.
This is the Library Career Center. It will help children get a jump start on a career. There are houses for kids to live in, a slide to a pool, free computers, and a rocket ship to take kids wherever they want to go, operated by a robot. And this is Sarah, and this is Lucas. So Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about your contribution?
My contribution, I've been working on people and people and people. Also, I made a water fountain, and it is just so stubborn. Because guess what?
What?
It would stick anywhere else except the project. And it was
Excellent, Sarah. This is the art of perseverance right here. We definitely found different ways to do things. And Lucas, what did you contribute to this? This is the rocket ship that takes them where they want to go. This one right here. There it goes. And there is a slide to a pool, and we'll leave these here for a little bit. The details that are actually part of this are pretty incredible. Maybe I'm just biased because they're my kids, but I think they're pretty incredible.
I need my adventure park. These gentlemen and two other friends were in their group. They were a group of 5, and they decided that Dudley needed an adventure park. Everything you could possibly imagine, along with a snake room, a comfortable room. There is a gyroscope that goes back and forth. There's a skate park, a pool, all things that you can go and have fun. And of course, it does not cost any money at all. Logan, could you tell us something that you created for your...
I added this little gyroscope thingy, and then you can roll, and it only goes slow, but if there's emergencies, you can press the yellow button, and then it goes fast, so you can get away from the danger.
Well done. Daxton, what is something that you created?
I made the exit, but it stinks on ice because I made it too big.
And you also added this, I believe, when we were in class. Do you want to tell them about that?
We made a zip line, and my mom helped me make this because she got a hole and tied it, and I taped the top of that.
We were very fortunate that Daxton's mom was a helper in our class one day, so she assisted, but it is mostly the children's work. And Devin, can you tell the children and the people that what you made? What did you make for our park?
Train.
He made a train. It even has a train ticket, and all the children labeled all of their things as well. Nicely done, dear.
This is a pet hotel.
Oh, good.
It is a hotel made out of Legos where you can take your dogs. There's a rocket ship for kids and grown-ups to use in space. It'll have a pool with soft Lego floaties. There's a hot tub next to the pool. There's a separate cat part attached so that the dogs and cats don't fight. And this is Manor. And Manor, what part of this did you build?
I built the top over here and two sticks and I painted this top row and I found this little starfish to go in there and I found the ribbon to go in the hot tub and I found this so the water can get out.
And if you see, there's some great inventive spelling. The word welcome at the top. All right, and then this is their two separate pieces. So good job, Manor.
And I made the
And the yarn for the cat.
As you can tell from all the colors on this was made by a lovely group of girls. This is a department store that Dudley does not have. And the lovely thing about this department store is you can borrow the things and return them just like at the library. So if you don't like something, then you are all set. You can bring it right back. Girls, can you tell me some parts of your department store? What do we have? What do you get to borrow from this section of your department store? Pretty earrings and all different kinds of jewelry. There is a flower store. Annabelle, what can you tell us about something that you created?
I created this.
You did. She's worked very hard on getting all the paper to stick to it. We've used a lot of tape. The other girls that were in the group, we have a pool. We also have a cookie store, and I believe there is a bakery over there. And
It's called a popcorn stand.
oh, the popcorn stand. I'm sorry. And I believe there is an elevator as well for people to help get along. Yes, there we go.
We had to do this to make it look pretty.
We added jewels to make it look pretty.
It looks awesome.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Yes, very nice. And they included many of their friends from their classroom, and even some of their teachers are also shopping at the department store, and complete with the keys to get into the department store as well. Nicely done, girls.
This is another hotel. It's a three-dimensional experience. This is a no-money hotel. It's safe because it has a code door that opens in emergencies. It will have a hot tub and a pool. Old people can stay for free. There is a relaxing room for old people where they can just float around. It will make them less grouchy. It has 100 rooms. So this is Tim, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his project. What part did you build?
I made the lights in case it's darker and the people that's driving in case they can't see it good.
Mm-hmm. And you also did this part, right? Tell us about that part.
This is so they can actually relax and it's actually soft. Because this is the relaxing one, so.
Did you make the swing too?
I think Michael made it.
And Michael made the swing? Yep, so it's actually There's people inside, there are rooms inside. It's from one end to the other, complete, wonderful hotel experience, correct? Awesome. Thank you, Tim.
And a hot tub. And a zip line.
Next, we have Delaney, Evelyn, and Pierce. And there were 2 other friends that could not make it this evening. But the 5 children worked together to create another hotel for Dudley. Can you tell us about some of the rooms? Pierce, what is something that you made?
I made this.
And what is that called? Can you tell
It's
them?
called the portal room.
The portal
Tag,
room.
run around.
There's laser tag inside. You can run around, burn off some energy. Delaney, is there something that you could tell us about that you created?
Yes. I made the bakery over here, and there's a lot of cupcakes stacked.
A love cupcake is stacked on it as well. Evelyn, do you have something that you could tell us about? What is something that you created? I believe part of this was your creation. The girls and boys bathroom, because if you're going to a hotel, you need to have those types of places. We also have an elevator. They were very considerate with all their creations. A pool. Am I missing anything, guys? A place to sleep. What am I missing, Delaney? Anything? The pool. The back. And all the decorations on the back. Evelyn worked very hard to make the screen for this window. So very nice job, guys.
Alrighty, and this is the elevator. It's an elevator party with Legos and a place for babies and old people. It has a trap door full of free treasure. It will help everyone who don't have homes. It will be fun. Everybody can go there. It has a kitchen where robots give you food. It's a party all the time, but there's a doctor's office for people and pets if you need it. Jacob, you want to tell us a little bit about it? What'd you do?
I made the elevator and I made the inside of the doctor's. I tried to make it really good too.
There's the doctor's office over there. And Hunter?
I made the robot.
Hunter made the robots in the kitchen. You can see the table. Hunter, where's your robot? There you go. So there's a pool on top with a lot of lovely water. And this is the treasure room on the side here. Nice job, boys.
And the last presentation from Mrs. Gajewski's class is This is Liv Cushing. And she's flying solo tonight. No one has come to join her, but she did work with 4 other friends in our classroom. And even though Dudley has a lot of farms, there's something very unique about this farm. So what could you tell us about some of the things that happen on this farm?
There is a bunch of animals. There is a cat, there is a dog, there is a horse, and then a sheep. And there is a dog in front of the opening door, and there is a kid. There is a bunch of butterflies, so the butterflies love our dairy farm. There is all of our people that helped us on the farm.
There are pens for the animals. These are all the people that worked on the project that they drew and added. What is special about the horses? What can you do with the horses at this farm?
We could ride the horses, we could feed them in their little play area, and you could pet them and feed them. And when the farmer wants to feed them, the farmer can come right here and get all the food.
All the food. And what is special about the cows at this farm?
The cows, they make milk for us to drink.
And what can we do if we don't want to drink the milk? What else can we make at this farm? Do you remember?
We can make some ice cream from the sheep.
You can make ice cream. No, we can't make ice cream from the sheep. We can make s'mores from the sheep, remember? Yes. So, very nice job. You did a nice job representing
I do have one last project, and unfortunately there is no one here to represent tonight, but I feel it's my duty at least to talk about it. There was a casualty in Mrs. Hooper's car on the way over, but this goes like this for visual effect. All right, and this is the apartment. This is a free apartment / hotel that has a pool and a free store that has everything and downloads too. It will help people by giving them a place to live, but it's also fun. So that was, and there's actually, when you look inside, there's furniture inside. There are a great many details that these children decided the inside needed to be focused on as well as the outside. So I definitely wanted to represent them equally. We just want to say thank you. Our parents have been super supportive in this. It's definitely a different way of looking at things, but I think it is an important way of looking at things because we're going back to the basics. Bubble tests are great, and we all need assessment, and we all need data. However, they need this. Yes. We need the bubble test, but they need this. So thank you for your support, and hopefully, you know, K2 marches on because it has been a wonderful experience, not only for them, but I think for us too. It's definitely, once you've done this for a few years and you can actually sink your teeth back into this, it rejuvenates your teaching again. And that's something that you can say few and far canned programs can actually do what this has done. So thank you so much for your support.
And great job.
These are going to be our future entrepreneurs as they get older through
They're
Dudley.
going to give away things.
They're going to give everything away for free. We're going to have hotels, pools, some Lego rooms, and some time warps. Portals. Portals. We're going to have some portals, right? We can winkle our nose and get to another
But
place.
they don't go to any. They don't go to any place. You just feel like you're trapped inside.
Yeah.
As long as there's ice cream, I'll be happy. Great job. Thank you.
We're going to have our superintendent make an announcement.
Sure. Thanks, everybody. Before the parents leave, before our students leave, and also our teachers, I'd like to use this opportunity this evening to make an announcement. We're taking it a little bit out of context later. It's later in our program this evening, our schedule, but I'd like to announce this evening that effective this evening, I'm pleased to announce that Mrs. Jennifer Desto will become the permanent superintendent. I think that was a Freudian slip. I think there's some relationship.
Yeah.
They'll become the principal of Mason Road School. Just a couple of
Stay. I get to stay the principal at Mason Road School. Like forever and ever and ever.
Get the kids.
Is that okay with you, Logan? Thank you very much. I'm so super excited. As you can see, this is what coming to work every day means, and I'll take it. Sign me up. Right, guys? Are you guys awesome?
So I just would add a few comments. Mrs. Desto moved in a very difficult situation, moving into her really first public school principalship in the middle of the summer. Not a lot of transition and time to plan. She moved in, hit the ground running, hasn't stopped really. She's been a great contributor and a collaborator with our team. She brings a great deal of experience in special ed. But I think what I admired really the most about her is that Jennifer is all about equity for all students. And she will be the strongest advocate that you have advocating for equity and excellence. And I really admire that in her. And she's been a joy to work with. And I think all of her fellow administrators would join me in saying that she's a great contributor, a great collaborator, and someone who make a wonderful addition to this team. So I thank her on behalf of the school district, really. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. That was fun. So we'll move right along. Approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of Wednesday, March 27th.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay.
Sure.
Discussion? Any discussion?
I provided these to Mrs. Sullivan because I had a few. So on page 5, under D, just some changes. The second sentence was some of the topics discussed are on tonight's agenda. And then a new sentence, the main topic of the meeting was the debt incurred in food services account. Moving down to the next paragraph, we added language which said the subcommittee discussed the labor costs to recover debt, which is estimated at $2,800 per month. And the subcommittee agreed that the debt collection should be, hang on a second. The district's policy does allow the food services director authority to collect balances through a collection agency or small claims court. The subcommittee agreed that the debt collection, and the subcommittee agreed with Mr. Greenberg that the debt collection should proceed in tiers. The last sentence, the Budget and Finance Subcommittee recommends sending policy JQ to the Policy Review Subcommittee for review. Page 6, into the middle, regarding the joint financial meeting. In the middle of the paragraph, Mrs. Rabbit said the needs of the school, the capital needs of the school district are not in the town's pipeline of consideration. New sentence, Charlton is moving forward with a debt exclusion for a public safety building, and the town of Dudley was successful in its debt exclusion vote for a new fire station. She said the meeting was ended by Board of Selectmen Vice Chair Deborah Noble before a discussion on action steps occurred. And then going to page 7, first paragraph, we struck the sentence, there can still be movement on the third line, and added language. Mrs. Rabbit said that she would still like some flexibility to shift that amount as the state budget moves through the House and Senate, as the district's reimbursements could increase. And those were my changes.
I have a couple. Are you all set? On the first page, near the bottom, about 4 lines up, I made a comment about the special ed reorganization. Remove it's not a savings of $16,000, it's a cost of $16,000 for that new position, correct? Should say cost, not savings. Okay? Okay, Sandy? On the same part that Mrs. Rabb was talking about, the cafeteria, it's D on page 5. The last figure should be $29,897. You missed that, Elaine. Me and numbers.
I know what you mean.
$29,897 is the correct figure of the debt, yeah, that last figure. And just for clarification, on page 6, the paragraph, the big paragraph from the bottom, motion to approve. I think we should put in there recommendation number 2, because otherwise you don't know whether it's 1 or 2 that we're approving there. So I would say a motion to approve recommendation number 2 for blah, blah, blah. Okay? That way it clarifies, because we're talking about 2 different recommendations, so just to make it clear. And that's it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I just had one on page 9 in the policies, when we were talking about the tobacco policy, which was policy ADC. I said, Mrs. Terry said this may not be consistent, and I wanted to verify what the towns had.
Anyone else?
Okay. All in favor with the corrections and insertions? All in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous. And then I'm going to entertain a motion to approve and Sandy did give us a new set of executive sessions of Wednesday, March 27th. So with the corrections there, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. This evening, we do have warrants to be signed, and they're making their way around the table. That brings us to student representative report. Kaylee?
Thank you. And I apologize for not being here last week. Thank you, Mr. Chaplin, for stepping in. So first things first, as you can all tell, the DMS and CMS 8th grade show choirs are joining Shepherd Hill tonight for their spectacular night of music. That's a lovely parking lot outside. But yeah, they've all three of them have had awesome seasons. They've really worked their butts off, and they've swept at almost every single competition, at least the middle schools have. In the high school, as mentioned by Mr. Chaplin last week, we're able to travel to Orlando, Florida, and compete in the Heart of America competition, and they placed third runner-up at that. And the spring band concert will be held on April 23rd at 6:00 p.m. here at Shepherd Hill. And in sports, the girls varsity lacrosse team starts off with an undefeated season, 4-0, while Skylar Peets achieved her 200th point of her career, and Claudia Bonaventura, who's a sophomore, scored her 100th goal of her career in just 1.5 seasons. Drew Montigny was named the Scholar Athlete, one of 6 in all of CMAS by the National College Football Hall of Fame, and he's the first Shepherd Hill Regional High School recipient in the past 7 years. And this Friday at 3 o'clock, the Alps Province and Barcelona trip will be departing here at Shepherd Hill to start their 12-day trip. And in the community, there will be a comedy fundraiser to benefit the Dudley-Charlton Gridiron on Friday, April 12th at Halligan's Bar. The door will open at 7:00 p.m. and the show will start at 8:00 p.m. Tickets are $20 and is BYOS, bring your own snacks. And then at Dudley Middle School, I mentioned this at a few meetings ago, but there will be the Health and Wellness Fair on Monday, April 22nd from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the Dudley Middle School cafeteria. Some exhibits will include a vaping display with the school resource officer, Officer Magus, and there'll be other assorted vendors, such as the chiropractor down in Webster. They'll have a display going on there. And there'll also be the special screening of the documentary Screenagers, Growing Up in the Digital Age, from 6 to 7 in the DMS auditorium. If you haven't had the chance to see that already, highly recommended for everyone to go see. It's awesome. So that's all I have this week. Any questions?
Thank you.
No? Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. Nice job. Citizens Forum this evening. Do we have anyone that would like to come forward?
I'm Stephen Sage from Charlton. I just wanted to comment on my disappointment in the presentation 2 weeks ago by I believe it was the District Capital Plan Group that came and presented that they were willing to come in and question teachers and administrators, custodial staff, citizens of the two towns about what they felt the needs of the district are. What got me most disappointed is when one of you, as a committee member, asked the question about what the cost of their proposal was going to be. They did not answer it. They gave a long-winded response that did not answer a very simple question, which we did eventually get the answer to, that it was about $150,000 for their services. These are services that I think internally we can probably handle ourselves. Our administrators and custodial staff know a great deal about what their buildings need as far as any kind of capital improvements. Our teachers certainly can tell us what makes a very conducive learning environment and what would improve their lives as the purveyors of information to young people. I think you can even ask students, as you just saw. Students have a great amount of ideas of what might make their learning environments, or in this case, the town of Dudley's environment, a better place. We already know that we have several buildings in our district that have roof problems. yet we do not have the money to apparently fix those problems. And we were going to possibly shell out $150,000 for something I think we can do ourselves. I don't see the value of paying them to gather this information. That's my personal opinion, and I hope you make a similar decision when you make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sage. Anyone else that would like to come up and address us this evening? Okay. That brings us to communications. Dr. Nash, do you have any this evening?
I have two letters that I would like to read. One is a retirement, one is a resignation. The first comes from the treasurer of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District, Melinda Ernst Fournier, and she has indicated to us in her letter that she is resigning from her position as treasurer of the district effective on Friday, May 24th. She has accepted a position as the treasurer for the town of Nantucket and will begin that position on June 3rd. She's worked in the district, as many of you know, for over 18 years. Indicates, of course, she appreciates the fact that she's been able to do that and is very grateful for being part of the team. But she and her husband will be relocating, starting a new adventure, if you will, in Nantucket. So we wish her well. So that's the first letter that I would read in.
And she'll be sorely missed.
She will.
She will. Excellent.
And the second is a retirement. This letter comes from our Mason Road School nurse, Maureen Gagnon. She writes her letter of her intent to retire effective the 30th of this month. It has been a great pleasure for me to work in this district for the past 21 years, and she wishes all of us great success. That position has been posted, and it has been filled. Effective the 22nd of April, Roberta Johnson will be joining us. Roberta is currently a school nurse in Northbridge, and she'll be joining us then. So we're really happy. Mason Road School this year has not really had the services long-term of a nurse. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mrs. Gerard, who has really worked extremely hard to make sure that we have coverage when we need it on a daily basis, and it's not been easy to do that. And so I appreciate the work that she's done. We'll have a nice transition period as we start to transition Mrs. Johnson in. We'll also keep on, we've been able to kind of work out a schedule, and Mrs. Gerard has, where we've had some consistency in nurses being at the Mason Road School either one of 2 days. So we'll transition Mrs. Johnson in, keeping one of our nurses there who has familiarity and knowledge with it as she moves into this district. And I think Mrs. Desto will tell you she is thrilled, as the staff would tell you, to have a permanent nurse before the end of the school year. So I really thank, again, the work of Mrs. Gerard to ensure that we have continuity in this very difficult time that we've had trying to fill this position, given the fact that Mrs. Gagnon has had some medical issues that have kept her out. So I thank her for her years of service to the district. And that is it for communication.
And the members.
I did receive a communication from a retiree regarding the health insurance conversation, and I directed those questions to Mr. Matthew and directed the employee, gave them the information about the meeting, which I know they attended.
Okay. And I too got a couple of inquiries, like Kathy, we got the same.
They're still coming in.
And because I had more knowledge of it, I did answer the questions that, I could answer the questions, and I think Kathy
What I could, I
answered
did, otherwise
what
I
could.
got information.
So I think we took care of that and their concerns. Anyone else? No? Okay. Superintendent's report, Dr. Nash?
I have no special topics report this evening,
Okay.
given the fact that we have a very full schedule.
All right. That brings us to new business. District Health Insurance Joint Purchasing Agreement update, and I believe that's Mr. Matthew.
Thank you very much. As the committee is aware, at its last meeting of March 27th, we had planned on having a vote, but we were given a 2-week reprieve from holding that vote. and use those 2 weeks to hold 2 additional informational sessions, one at Dudley Middle School, which was not heavily attended, and one here at Shepherd Hill, which was attended by about 30 to 40 people. The questions were legitimate. The concerns, especially from retirees, are not unfounded. We provided them the best information that was available to us. We assured them that the plan design that they currently have under the Blue Cross Blue Shield MedEx plan will remain the same regardless of who the actual network and provider is. We do have members of the Insurance Advisory Committee here this evening, as well as our advisors. I don't know if you want to call them up prior to the vote or include them at all in this portion of the meeting.
If we have questions for them, we can include them.
I think a vote was taken yesterday. What was the result of that vote?
So the Insurance Advisory Committee did meet yesterday, and it was a unanimous vote to recommend to the school committee to proceed with joining the joint purchase group.
So, can we take a vote, or do we need more information? What is the committee's wishes? We'll take the vote. I think we've had enough information on this. That's my opinion, but anyone else? Do you need more information before we take the vote?
I feel like we've discussed it enough to take a vote.
Everybody agrees? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee in joining the purchase group, the joint purchase group that Mr. Matthew set forward for us.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I just want to say I basically didn't know much about insurance until this last month. So if you want to ask anybody, come here. But no, I didn't understand the concept until these questions came in, and I felt it was my duty to find out. So I did attend the meetings. I crashed their meeting one day. Mrs. Saboni, I've been up to ask her, Mr. Matthews. I think I'm pretty well versed now in how it works, and I think Mr. Matthew made the best analogy. It's the same exact insurance, but it's like using MasterCard instead of Visa to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And in fact, for the retirees, if anyone's a retiree in the group, in this week's AARP recommends United Healthcare Insurance Company. It's the only one they recommend, so that kind of follows right in line. So for the retirees, if they get this, there's an ad for it in today's magazine. So I feel that I'm ready to make the commitment for 2 years.
And I've been involved in insurance for like 30 years, and I really, really know a lot about the trust fund. And because the plan design is going to be the same and it's locked in there, there's not going to be any different. We're just going to have the different carrier, and it's going to save us money. I think that's the best way to go right now. So I think I will vote for it too. Anyone else? Any other discussion before we take the vote? Go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you that I called the Ethics Commission of just concerning a conflict of interest, being that my mother-in-law is a retiree, and I have been playing telephone tag with the lawyer, so I'm going to not, I just don't feel comfortable yet, so I'll probably be abstaining from the vote.
And I did, a few years ago, I was concerned with health insurance because we always, and I called the Ethics Committee because my son works in the Dudley School District, and I said, well, can I vote on it? And they told me, yes, I could vote on it because it's for the good of everybody. It's just like the budget. If it was something special for him, then I couldn't vote on it. So I'm going to take that, and I will vote today because I did call. But that was a few years ago, and, you know, things could change. You just don't know because you take somebody's word and somebody else will say something different. But when either Sean Gilrain or Mr. Desto was here, I was concerned. And they said, fine, you can vote.
I did file a disclosure with the town.
Right. So you can abstain, that's fine. Whatever you think. So any other discussion before we take a vote?
I just had one question. Does the committee want to vote and include the language that the MedEx plan would mirror?
Right.
plan design would be on?
Yeah, that's what we'll have in the motion, that the senior plan, even though we don't have a carrier, we're mirroring it the same as they have now. The plan design will be the same. So that's going to be in the motion. So we have both. We have the regular insurance that we're going to have the plan design the same, and then we're going to have the seniors. All right? So you made the motion, right? Okay.
I did.
Did we have a second? Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, and one abstention.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. O'Coin, if I could, I'd like to publicly thank the members of the Insurance Advisory Committee. They volunteer for the Insurance Advisory Committee, and especially this year with this topic, and most especially the last 6 weeks or so. They really have gone above and beyond by attending not only school committee meetings, but there was somebody there at all of the informational session meetings. Some people have gone to multiple meetings. Mr. Logan represents all of the retirees and received 1 or 2 emails, 1 or 200 emails perhaps. But just everybody, really has dug into this. They recommended this, not because, only because it seemed like the right idea at the right time. So I really do want to thank them all, and most especially somebody who's not an official member of the IAC, Mary Ellen Cerbone, who has gone above and beyond.
And we'll give it a chance, because we're locked in for 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, we can just do something else.
The evidence will be very clear very quickly, I think.
Okay, so we'll move right along. Report of the Director in Finance and Operations. Okay, that's Mr. Matthew again.
Thank you very much. First thing, Charlton Elementary School received a donation of $1,385 from the Charlton PTO.
Make a motion to accept the donation from the Charlton PTO.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. We've just covered the health insurance. The food service update, Mr. Greenberg is later on the agenda, and we'll be having a presentation to talk about where we stand with food service deficits. The last item I have for the committee this evening, just an update. We recently met with the Board of Health in Dudley, but the Board of Health in Charlton wants to mirror this as well. They want to form a better line of communication with the outside groups that use the facilities in terms of the food served and those sorts of things. Our rental contract already calls for groups to contact the Board of Health for any necessary permits. So all we're going to do is modify that to include a form for all of the notifications that the Board of Health would like to see. And we'll go forward with this, allowing each group to pursue their own food service permit with the town, who's assured us that there'll be no charge for those. It's possible that smaller groups may not want to do that, and so we're going to have to wait and see if we want to modify this at all, or where we might take some level of responsibility, but receive compensation for that.
Through the chair, I have a question on that. If we did want to pursue taking some responsibility for it, would we need to take a look at our policy on use of school facilities to make sure that it coincides with what we're doing?
I think it makes sense. You're going through the policy review, so at some point in time during that process, I'm sure you'll get there. But this is really all in the rental contract itself, which adheres to the current policy.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have for this evening.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Matthew before we go on? Okay, thank you. Okay, Budget and Finance Subcommittee report, and Elaine.
The Budget and Finance Committee met on Tuesday. Some of the topics will be discussed later. We did discuss the district capital plan, and I'd like to make the committee's recommendation when that is on the agenda. We did discuss the joint financial meeting and the need for follow-up with that, with a conversation. And I know there's some challenges with Charlton right now. The town administrator is out on leave, so that might delay our ability to have a conversation with everyone. We did discuss the results of the impact of the final budget recommendation, and out of the many things that we've talked about as far as moving forward with, the one item that will be coming up for discussion at some point in time is the reading curriculum. I don't know that it's not on the agenda tonight, but that was the one item that we prioritized as moving forward with. Regarding the Mars reorganization, we did discuss that as well, and the financial possibilities with that, and I know that's later on the agenda. And just to give you a forward look on what we're talking about at our next meeting, we're looking at the substitute management system, updating on where we are with school choice applications, reviewing our fee structure for athletic and extracurricular fees for the handbooks that need to be reviewed before the end of the year. Obviously, looking for Mr. Greenberg to provide an update on the school lunch debt. And those are the things that right now we have on the agenda for the 23rd.
Oh, thank you. Any questions for Elaine? Thank you, Elaine, for the report. Policy Review Subcommittee report, and that's Mary.
Okay, so I'll go through the proposed for amendment items first.
Okay, and Mary,
Yes.
there's only one new one for the
There's
first
only
reading.
one new.
Just one, okay.
Correct. So, policy A, we talked about last time. Again, there's no change to the current language. We just added the reference to Mass General laws at the end of the policy to make it
Okay,
consistent.
so before we do that, I'm going to entertain a motion to waive the reading of all the policies that we have in front of us, okay? So do I have a motion? Okay, any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous. Okay, so policy A, this is our second reading. I need a motion to approve the second reading and adopting it. Policy A.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Okay, Mary?
Okay, policy ACAB, sexual harassment. At the end of this policy, we added specific contact information for the district website and the district coordinator, and references to the civil rights law information. So this is our second reading.
Okay, approve the second reading and adoption of policy ACAB. Do I have a motion to accept? Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's adopted.
Okay, policy ADC, tobacco products on school premises prohibited. We had waived moving ahead with this one last time based on Mrs. Terry's request. The policies that you brought forward had more to do with the sales of tobacco products versus the actual on-premises, so they weren't applicable. So we're going ahead with our recommendation as is.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve policy ADC's first reading.
First read.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you. Sorry that I held up.
Oh,
No,
no
that's
problem.
Good to look at it. Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Trust me, we have enough to
Do
go
it
through,
right.
and we don't need to go through it more than once. Okay. Policy JEB, requirements for entrance. We did make the requested change that kindergarten children must be 5 years of age by September 1st.
Okay, motion to approve our second reading and adoption for policy JEB.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Okay, moving right along, we have policy GCCBA, personnel, all employees, additional sick leave, we propose this one for deletion.
Did we delete that the last time?
You did.
Yeah, I
Did
think we
already
did
delete it?
these
So
two.
it shouldn't be on the list?
Right.
No.
Right.
Okay.
These are, it's the same list, you know,
Okay,
so we
same
did
list.
delete those last
Okay,
week.
and the life-threatening food allergies as
Right,
well?
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. The
So-
question would be, on a deletion, do you need 2 readings?
No, I don't think so. I think once it's deleted, I'm, you know,
Should we vote just to be
we
sure?
could do it again, but I think once it's deleted, it's out.
I don't recall. I would
I
be safe
think
and
so.
say, do a second read and vote to delete.
No, no, yeah, no harm in it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll make a motion, we delete both of those policies.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Covers it all.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. It's deleted permanently.
Okay.
Until next week.
All right.
And then these two, did we take care of those two? Proposed for, I don't think so.
I don't
I
think we
think
did.
these are the second
This
reading
is-
and the adoption.
This is the second reading.
Okay, yeah.
So, life-threatening food allergies, we made changes on page 5 to replace the van driver reference to drivers.
Oh, for goodness sakes. I thought I put this off.
And also, the second paragraph on page 5, we pulled out the verbiage on responsibilities of persons in charge of conducting after-school activities into its own paragraph, where it belonged. So,
Okay, so this policy ACE? Am I right?
oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing
JLCAR
JLCAR first. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
Went out of
okay.
order.
That we'll do that one
JLCAR.
first. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for our second reading for the policy JLCEA-R, and that is for adopting it this evening. Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion on it? All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Okay, and finally, ACE, we propose this one for adoption. We currently do not have this policy.
Okay, and this is our second reading, so to approve the second reading and adoption, I need a motion. Do I? Okay, do I have a second? Okay, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Good.
Thank
So
you.
you're moving right along with
Moving right
policy.
along.
Thank you. Elaine and Mary.
I don't want to think about
Thank
it.
you.
I think this is the best you and I have had.
Okay, now we have consideration to authorize superintendent to submit a statement of interest, SOI, to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Okay?
So as
So you want to speak to that first?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So as the committee will recall, at an earlier meeting this year, you took a vote to authorize us to submit a statement of interest for Shepherd Hill Regional High School to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for what we call a core program. The general priority categories remain the same. The school committee packet includes a copy of the SOI that will be submitted electronically. The chair will need to read the required language aloud, and those will need to be reflected in the minutes as you take your vote after the reading. In addition to that, we will have to submit electronically tomorrow the digital signatures for both forms, the SOI and the closed school form, and also submit our SOI, and then mail a hard copy of this to MSBA. This is for the core program, and that's it. So
Okay, so I will read the language, and then we'll take a vote to approve the SOI. Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on Wednesday, April 10th, 2019, prior to the closing date, the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee of Dudley and Charlton, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 10th, 2019, for Shepherd Hill Regional High School, located at 68 Dudley Oxford Road, Dudley, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with the state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Dudley-Charlton Regional School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So now I'll entertain the motion for the approval.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, we did the Mrs. Desto's appointment, and the update on teaching and learning, and that is Karen Aristine and Barbara Matadorosian curriculum.
What you have in your packet from me is an attempt to capture some of the highlights of the good work we've done this year and then the vision going forward. So the first thing you might notice is that in June, DESE updated the social studies standards, and they have actually refined them even more recently than June. And while there are a number of other things that have been changed, the most significant change is the addition of civics now for grade 8. So what the impact is really for Dudley Middle and Charlton Middle teachers of social studies. They will need to roll out a grade 8 civics course next year, which we are hoping to work on more in depth over the summer. So we did convene a social studies task force, which has been looking at this, looking at curricular tools, and there is at the state level a task force looking at the possibility of a grade 8 civics MCAS. So right now, that is just a potential. It is, nothing in stone as of yet, but we need to prepare for that. But in any case, the new course is expected to be rolled out rather quickly. The timeline on that has been expedited.
So I might add that we do not have instructional materials.
Right.
Currently, it's world history being taught.
Mhm.
So we're going to have to look very quickly at what, if any, materials we're going to need to purchase, core textbooks for that, so.
I have two questions.
Sure.
By this next year, do you mean this coming
Coming-
September?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. And if there is an MCAS, the discussion right now is that it would be piloted as soon as spring 2020, operational by 2023.
And the impact is also, remember that typically the grade 8 does one piece of world through a certain century, and then grade 9, second part. So now that has an impact at the high school level as to how do you compress what happened in the entire world in 1 year and teach it in grade
Right.
9.
So we have been working
we're
on
there
that. and
starting that work.
Yeah, and there are other shifts as well, but that is the most significant one.
My question,
Yeah.
this is going to it's not addition to, it's replacing the history that's there now.
Right, well, and other pieces have been shifted around, as Dr. Nash just indicated. So Christo, who is the head of the social studies department at Shepherd Hill, has been working on how to, do what they need to do at the high school level. There are also civics projects required at all of secondary, so we've been discussing some of those ideas. We had Roger DeRozier, who is a consultant with an organization called We the People, come in and give us some advice on how to approach that as well.
So the grade 8 history course is now civics. That's a whole 4-year
That's
course.
right.
Next year,
Yep.
yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. New Teacher Institute has been going well. As you know, that is a requirement to have a mentoring program in the district, and new teachers are in the process of updating logs to document their mentorship. Some of the topics that they have covered have included parent communication, infusion of technology, supportive classrooms, IEP process, growth mindset, PBL, and a few others. So that's been ongoing, and thank Tracy Julian for taking a lot of leadership role in planning that. For the district PD committee, as you know, we've led the book clubs this year on 50 children. In particular, we've done trainings for the ELL and SPED PDPs required for relicensure. We have another book club coming up on Learning First, Technology Second, which talks about the infusion of technology to enhance rather than entertain. You know that SPED Director Lorinda Allen is conducting trainings over the summer for co-teaching, and that Karen Ares has done quite a bit of work with the PBL emphasis this year. Looking forward, the the Professional Development Committee has made some suggestions about having more 4-credit courses offered. So we communicate all the time with French River and have some that we've shared on that. And there's also a group of Central Mass curriculum coordinators that will be meeting in a few weeks actually to discuss pooling some of our resources. For the next subtopic here, English learners, the state has passed the LOOK Act, the Language Opportunity for Our Kids Act, and that has a couple of implications. One of them is that the state will set benchmarks for English learners to meet, and if they are not met, then we need to come up with a success plan to progress monitor and take action steps for those students. That needs to happen next year. And the other impact is the state seal of biliteracy will be rolling out, and this is a way to document students who can speak, read, and write in other languages. And this is something that will benefit our students because the seal will go out on their transcripts, and that can help them in the future and career in college. So we do have a number of students who are very likely to qualify for that. And I do want to point out that's not just ELLs. We have students, for example, in AP Spanish, AP French. We have some students who are bilingual in Polish and in other languages as well. Civil rights. Okay, so we've almost completed the federal submission, and if you are new to this, the questions are quite extensive with everything from suspension reports, retention reports, teacher reports, a lot of demographic information. And I've provided the website there for you to look at when that is posted. It is not posted yet, and when I gather the data, it's from the preceding year. So that's quite an extensive collection of data. And then another piece that some of you are familiar with is the coordinated program review. In the past, the Department of Ed has come every 6 years for the full review and every 3 years for the mid-cycle, and you've gotten reports on civil rights, SPED, and ELL from the particular leaders here. The state has done away with the CPR and replaced it with tiered focus monitoring. And I gave you the PowerPoint Desi gave to us. Tiered focus monitoring is a little bit different in that we still have certain criteria to meet, but they're paring down the number of those criteria and they're coming more often. So they're coming every year, but they're looking at fewer of the indicators. So in that PowerPoint that I'd given you, there is something called the universal criteria. Those are the ones we know that they are coming to look at. So I had to provide the documentation for that. Mrs. Allen has provided the SPED answer to her criteria. We provide evidence that they will comb through. And if they see the need to further investigate and add more criteria, if there are any red flags, let's say, that they want to go in further, they do reserve the right to do that. So we will have the on-site visit next year. We don't know when that will be. They will let us know if it's going to be in October or the spring. For those of you who've maybe not been through an audit before, that is very comprehensive. They pull records, they interview people, they survey parents, and it's something that I think is good because it can only help us grow. Just look at it as, you know, shining a spotlight on areas that we could improve upon. In more positive news, the Wellness Works Fair is underway. That is the annual health and wellness fair that will be happening April 22nd. As you know, we are going to show screenagers as a focal point, but we also have a lot of other wonderful displays, including Worcester DA's Hidden in Plain Sight. Officer Magus has a display on vaping. Dudley Fire Department will be there with their Safe House display. Harrington Hospital, Page Chiropractic, Charlton Earth Day. Eric Pressman, a student, is going to have a display, I believe, on his fun run, which raises awareness for domestic violence, and a few other items as well. It's kind of a holistic view of health. Then with the literacy developments, as you know, a few years ago, these standards also were changed by DESE, and that the district at that time piloted National Geographic series and the Wonders series by McGraw-Hill, but were unable to purchase resources at that time. So therefore, teachers started developing their units, and that's been inchoate, and we have a wonderful teaching staff, of course, but we are hoping to purchase a basal reading series in order to iron out any inequities that could result across the district. So I've been meeting with the principals, literacy facilitators, and reading specialists on pulling together the thread that Mrs. Allen had done last year, all that research, all those evaluative forms. We also looked at Houghton Mifflin, who has a new series, and they would be willing to come present to you if you are interested in seeing that. That is the series that was voted on by the stakeholders. If we wind up going that route, that is absolutely up to you. But if we do, we're looking at a way to combine what the teachers have already produced in terms of the novels and weave that in with some of the other supports in a basal reading series, and that's another thing that we would work on over the summer to have it ready for the fall. So that's a lot of information. You probably have some questions. Sure.
Mrs. Nadarozhan, I know when they used to come in and do the CPR review and the audit, it's pretty extensive.
Yes.
That's the reason why it was a 6-year and 3-year cycle because of the number of districts. If they're reviewing every school district every year, do you know what the compression time is on how long they'll be in here impacting the district?
Not yet, because this is our first time.
Okay.
But remember, they're not doing all the criteria.
Right.
So just the universal ones, I think are 17 as opposed to all of them. So my guess is they'd probably have to keep it in the, approximate same turnaround time. Okay. It's just that they're taking fewer items, and their rationale was that there's some that have overlap. Mm-hmm. For example, translation of documents impacts all 3 areas: civil rights, special education, ELLs. So they're doing, one look at the translations under civil rights, but I noticed that's, not up this time for the other areas.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, if I can jump in here.
Sure.
On the literacy piece?
Yes.
I understand the basal reading series is a good place to start because it introduces phonemic awareness, but I'm wondering if a multisensory approach is being looked at as well as part of the reading program so that it touches all students and the different styles in which they learn.
I think you'd really be impressed if we do bring in Houghton Mifflin to do a shorter version of the presentation, because that is part of it. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, they are willing to come here and do like a 20-minute. I know that your time is valuable, and these meetings, can be quite involved, but they would show you all of that.
I would like to see it.
Yeah, sure.
Whether it's here or elsewhere, I would like to see it.
I would also like to see it. And we've talked a couple of different categories that you brought up about requirements. I know that the literacy is not a requirement, but the other things that you brought up seemed to be requirements. So I'm wondering where we're going to get the funding for that.
Right.
That's a good question.
We live in the world of unfunded mandates.
I understand that, but I'm trying to see. The civics is obviously a requirement.
It is. You know, typically what has happened in the past, Mrs. Terry, is there's been some time to plan this, which is a discussion that Barbara and I have had, you know, most recently when I said to her, you're telling me that the implementation is this fall. So I think we're going to have to look at potentially some of the savings that we'll have with respect to the vote that you took on the insurance tonight, and see what we can do. We just received this, and just getting cost proposals from, you know, some of the companies that have that. One of the concerns that we've talked about is the fact that you have an online resource right now, 6-year bought in with McGraw-Hill around social studies. And so the discussion needs to happen, well, if we're not going to use you in grade 8, if you will, because things have changed, what are you going to do for us with respect to that? So we've got to look at that. But we do have a short turnaround time, which is the reason why Barbara has been meeting with these groups. And we're going to have to come back to you with a cost and give you an indication of where we can do that.
I did call McGraw-Hill and say, you know, we have 3 years left on our contract. This is what has happened, and they are working on coming up with their own civics materials. But you know, that is a question. Would they let us out of the contract? Would they refund us some money? And we've had those discussions with them now that this is on their radar.
Can I ask a question? One of my concerns with, you know, I've been in my math department now for 20 years, and we've seen so many changes, and we've just gotten to the point where, like, when the new series comes out, like when the new mandates comes out, instead of purchasing the book, we've gone through the mandates and created our own curriculum based on what the mandates say, because the books that we kept looking at didn't have exactly what we wanted. And so we ended up, like, we would purchase these books and then not use them a lot. So that's one thing that I caution, is that I wouldn't want us to jump into a book and then and find that we don't
Well,
want to
that's
use
why I
it.
convened the Social Studies Task Force. So we've looked at 3 books, really. We've looked at the Houghton Mifflin Civics piece, which is a textbook ebook hybrid. Then we've looked at something called We the People, which has all the landmark cases that need to be, per the standards, woven in. And then we looked at another text called Citizen, Promise Citizen, something like that. That's not exactly it. It's not at my fingertips, because, as you know, there's also a mandate for civics projects, and these texts were to give ideas about maybe what the parameters could be. Even though the projects are supposed to be student-driven, there need to be, you know, some ideas, some parameters, and so forth. So you're right. It's not really just one anchor text. There are some other things that teachers will need to look at and weave in together, and hence, you know, the need to work on that in the summer. And again, Roger DeRozier would come back and help with that process if need be.
Through the chair, not directed at you, Mrs. Manarosian, but this has been a huge topic of conversation with school districts with tight budgets regarding these unfunded mandates that come in. And State Auditor Bump has presented down at the MASC conference regarding this, and she's done a huge movement towards uncovering and promoting the unfunded mandates that are being put on to schools and the impact it's having on educational budgets. It would be my recommendation, and if we needed a vote, to authorize Dr. Nash to send a letter to State Auditor Bump introducing this as another unfunded mandate that we're being faced with, as well as to acknowledge this issue to our 2 senators and our 2 representatives, because education funding is a very strong focus of Governor Baker and the legislature. They have been making positive movements in this, but even though it might seem like a small amount of money, it is a huge amount of money for us right now because we don't have any. So I think it's important that we keep voicing the concerns, that we keep getting past these, and even more so that it's been passed with no time to respond.
Right. Agree.
So.
We'll send a letter.
I'd like to make a motion that we communicate with State Auditor Bump and our senators and representatives regarding the mandate on civics. Please.
Any discussion?
I just have a question. Should we be CCing our selectmen on these letters, just so that they're aware that?
Yeah, that is a good suggestion. I think that a lot of people don't know what we're grappling with.
Okay, and so that they can see that we're being proactive in it as well.
Very good suggestion.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Any more questions for Barbara? Thank you, Barbara.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to give my STEM update of all the great things that are going on in our classrooms this year that have to deal with STEM. So, sorry. Okay, so some of the things I'm going to talk about that are going on this year are Project Lead the Way at the high school in the biomedical science program, the Project Lead the Way middle school program called Gateway, in which we have design and modeling and automation and robotics, the Science, Technology, Engineering Task Force and the Math Task Force from DESE, project-based learning, and tech integration. And then looking ahead a little bit to next year, our Project Lead the Way grant in engineering and our innovation pathways. So first of all, in our Project Lead the Way biomedical science program, we are again in our second year, and so the class that is in our second year is called Principles of Biomedical Science. Last year there were 2 sections of this class. This year there are 5, so it's growing. We have 2 trained teachers who teach that class, and there'll be another one trained this summer. So here's some kids that in action in that class. And a little bit about this class. Again, this is project-based curriculum, so the kids are literally learning from the back ways of, they were set up with a forensics unit first to see kind of undo how this person died and what medical processes affected how that person died. So they discover important health issues by analyzing a crime scene and determining how a patient died, all within a year. So right here, this is probably within the first week of class, and this is about the second week when they're determining blood spatter because this person hit her head on the way to her death. She has vomited on the floor, which everyone loves in high school. Here's some more pictures. Another really cool thing about, I wish this was working because they make working models of how insulin is pumped through the body. We had someone in our science fair this year who developed an artificial pancreas coming out basically from this class. They take EKGs, and it's a real working, class from the get-go. We are also in our first year of the second class in this series called Human Body Systems. We have 2 sections of this class, and there are 2 trained teachers. Here are some of the students who are obviously going through something to do with the eyes. They're, again, learning all about the human body. So they step inside the human body and explore systems that help us move, protect from disease and injury, and facilitate communication. They solve medical mysteries, they analyze medical cases, diagnose diseases, and design experiments to explore the structure and function of the human body. They're all doing it with their human body system mannequin, and all their groups have mannequins where they're learning about the structure of the human body and designing it as they go on the outside in. Next year, the class that we're going to add in our 3rd series is called Medical Interventions. In this case, again, this is really the 3rd tier. They're investigating a variety of interventions involved in the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of disease. They'll explore interventions related to immunology, surgery, genetics, pharmacology, medical devices, and diagnostics. They're going to practice problem solving with structured activities and progress to open-ended projects and problems that require them to develop planning, documentation, communication, and other professional skills. So that's a little bit about biomedical science. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when I talk about the innovation pathways. In our Project Lead the Way Gateway course sequence, we have 6th grade doing design and modeling, which is awesome because they're doing it both Dudley Middle School and Charlton Middle School, every 6th grader. Every 7th grader is getting automation and robotics. Next year, we are adding app makers, and so we have teachers going to training for that this summer. This is so cool. And by the way, I put out requests for pictures so I could put this presentation, and I was flooded with pictures because everybody's so proud of what their kids are doing. So basically, students are learning the engineering design process and learn to draw multiple views of various objects with computer drawing tools. Front, top, right, and orthographic. Students design and build a foot orthosis for a child with cerebral palsy. The goal is to keep the child's foot straight and not walk on their tippy toes. So this is what they're building for this child. And then another project, the final project, is for students to design and build a therapeutic toy for also a child with cerebral palsy. The goal is to work on their hand coordination since those children have trouble gripping. So here's some of those pictures here. Here's some of their pictures of their toys. You can see how they're designing the gripping, especially in these balls that go in the tubes. So really learning about empathy as well and learning a lot about the child with the disease. And through our partner Mass STEM Hub, who we received the grant from, they also have a learning showcase at Boston's Children's Hospital with doctors that come in to evaluate the toys and so forth. This year, I believe our teachers are going just to see what it's all about, but they invite the students as well. So it's pretty awesome. Hopefully next year we can send some of our kids. Automation and robotics, what are they doing in here? They allow students to trace the history, development, and influence of automation and robotics. They're learning about mechanical systems, energy transfer, machine automation, and computer control systems. They use the VETS robotic platforms to design, build, and program real-world objects, such as traffic lights, toll booths, and robotic arms. And so the first thing that they have to do before they even get to coding that robot is learn about gears and how to build, okay? So this is what they're doing here, especially in the basics over here. And I believe these are modified robots, kits that we bought, and these are some of the gears that they're building. This is one of the pull toys, because again, this is the graduation on how they're getting to that robot. But one of the designs that they build when they're learning is a pull toy. So they have to get as they pull that toy along, like a child's pull toy, it's doing something as it goes. So each group develops their own type of thing. Again, all girls in this group, pretty cool, working with robots. The other nice thing is that this platform is the exact same robotics platform that we're using at Shepherd Hill High School, so the kids are already getting exposure to that. Okay, the Science, Technology, and Math Task Ambassadors and Task Force. So basically, DESE has put together a proposal last year. Mr. Starshevsky and myself joined as ambassadors. We had to apply, and we were accepted. The math frameworks changed, and so did the science technology. They were updated. And so basically for grades 7 through 12 and math grades 4 through 8, we are basically working together with a task in our districts. So this is going again across the state, where all districts are working on this to develop hands-on tasks that relate to these new frameworks. Really relates heavily to project-based learning, where the kids are applying their knowledge in these tasks. It really can be anything from a simple, one lesson class or one lesson task to a multi-day or, week task. Most of ours are, somewhere between a couple days and one lesson. So there's a process that's going on with this. We're meeting as ambassadors throughout the year at WPI, where we receive information and training. We bring it back. We train our teachers. We talk to them. We give them professional development on how to do these tasks. They write the tasks. They pilot them in their classroom, and then we finalize them. And so that's where we are right now. They're having basically a Math and Science Institute of kind of a celebration and a showcase of these tasks on June 11th. And then they're going to publish all these on the DESE website. So Mrs. Carmignani, you can use some of them in your classes because they will be available for you. So that's exciting. I actually, we have some of these tasks just to give you an example. This is our math task. So in grade 4, they're doing weather challenge, box and whisker plots, which I believe, no, that wasn't at the PB, that wasn't it, that's grade 4. Farmer Brown's Garden, task line plots. Grade 5 is party slime. And I actually brought that board with me if you guys want to look at it later. They had that at their PBL showcase a couple weeks ago, and they were happy to show that to you. Grade 6, stock market challenge. Grade 7, lining the fields, Noah's boat. Grade 8, Pythagorean's sandbox and a savings dilemma. And then for STE, for grade 7 to 12, grade 7 is doing a design a boat for Tom Sawyer Day at both schools. They do a big Tom Sawyer Day at both of those locations. Grade 8, I already witnessed this pilot in this classroom, both classrooms, Dudley Middle School and Charlton Middle. It was awesome, where basically the kids are learning about biomolecules, and they have to reorganize the body and take one out and see which one is the most important. By the way, they all are, and they can't take one out. Environmental science, how will soil affect your garden design? Grade 10 chemistry, designing a molecule, where they're using a 3D printer for that one here at the school. Grade 11 physics is egg drop force calculations. So that's some of the cool stuff going on there. PBL, that's been a big strategic plan initiative this year. So as Ms. Martirosian kind of stated, I've kind of been heading that implementation up with our PBL implementation team, which we have about 36 members from grades K to 12. K is off and running, as you saw tonight. Their curriculum is very project-based anyway, so it's quite funny and refreshing to see in the training where they're like, yep, we do that. Yep, we got it. And by the way, your kids can do it. So we've had 3 sessions of training where I've trained them, and they go back and share that information with their staff. All our professional development days have been centered around the PBL theme this year. A lot of faculty meetings, a lot of dialogue. And these are the basic tenets of project-based learning, where you have a driving question or challenge. You know, what is the need to know? You have inquiry and innovation. It's centered around 21st century skills, collaboration being a huge one, which a lot of teachers are working on specifically this year. Collaboration, communication, creativity, citizenship, one more, I'll think of it in a minute. Student voice and choice, also huge, is not all students may not have to have that public product be the same. They get a choice in what they want to present or create. They have feedback and revision, and they have a publicly presented product. So not all of our units have all of that, but those are some goals. So here are some cool lessons that have already been done. Just to give you a snapshot, grade 4, Dudley Elementary School, one of our teachers did a Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, where they're designing a cereal box. Grade 8 in Charlton Middle School, they had teams of geological advisors who were talking about where to build a hotel in an area of the world that might have potential underground activity. Both our 5th grade teams are collaborating with one another and designing a toy that is involved with the sun, moon, and earth. And this is our high school, one of our high school biology classes. We're designing prosthetics, and they were learning about the skeletal system and the muscle system. Some that are coming, Mr. Earl and some of his 6th grade teammates are working on a rate of cooling experiment, and they actually are going to have Yeti coolers. They've contacted people from them to critique the kids' designs and give them some of that public feedback. In grade 8 at Charlton Middle, they've worked on an interview for a famous sports figure for Spanish TV. Shepherd Hill, they have a millionaires club where the kids are literally investing and starting stocks and seeing kind of competition on who can make the most money. Grade 4 DES, they're going to do an Exploring Washington, D.C. project this spring, and they're creating a digital brochure. And in grade 2, Winter Wonderland, actually that's grade 3 at Heritage, the whole team did that, and they presented that project for our March 15th PD Day. So they got to share it with other people and just tell everybody what they did. That got great feedback, so people were seeing how they did, and it was good to see, good collaboration. Yeah, technology. So this is our 1st grade Super Bowl celebration. Can you see our 1st grader in there? You know where she is? She's right here with John Brady. So at Charlton Elementary School, they are killing it with the green screen, and so I had to just put that picture in. So one of the things that I thought I would share was, in our strategic plan, we talked a lot about global citizenship, right, and learning about different cultures and things like that. So Miss Beverly is right here. One of her projects is doing a green screen so the kids can learn about Boston, and they're sending that information to Pen Pals in Denver, in which they do a Flipgrid interview and conversation with each other, and then they send that information back about Denver. So that's pretty cool. What else do we have? Oh, sorry. Technology integration. This is some of our PD Day. Lots of teachers learning about Google. There was some of our elementary school teachers really still wanted that Google 101 training. They're learning about Padlet and Flipgrid, and they were having an excellent time. And this winter we had some PD going. We had some Coding 101, PBL tech tools on ways to enhance your project-based learning unit. We had storyboard that on our March 15th PD Day. These are all taught from our technology integration specialists. ThingLink, Lego We Do at both elementary schools. And then on the other sides of these pictures here, we're again talking about communicating with other people in different languages and connecting with people through technology. Ms. Rassicott from Shepherd Hill did a early morning phone call to the Boston Globe interview all in Spanish. And I have to give a shout out to Ms. Anderson at Charlton Middle School, because she's been Skyping it up, and she was a digital learner for us a couple years ago, and brought her to MassQ. She learned about Skype in the classroom, and then she went back and taught a session at MassQ this year, and they just Skyped with Jane Goodall the other day. Yeah, so that was pretty awesome. Also technology integration, this little lesson from bringing down the Shepherd Hill robotics teams to the Heritage School 4th grade came all about because of one group's Genius Hour project, where that basically is they're learning about more, something that they really want to learn about. So these kids wanted to learn more about robots. So they said, oh, great, maybe we can ask the Shepherd Hill kids to come down. So we did that, and then another teacher said, well, can we go? And the other teacher said, can we go? And soon it was the whole 4th grade. And the Shepherd Hill kids did great, and the kids were ecstatic about that.
The 4th graders loved it. I heard all of it.
Oh, okay, great. Big hit. Okay, so that's a lot of it about what's going on this year. Next year, as we've probably already heard in our announcements, we've got a new grant for Project Lead the Way Engineering here at the high school. And we're also excited about this because it's really going to pave the way for a nice integration computer integrated manufacturing with our engineering pathway. So the sequence of events for that is that next year we'll be teaching Introduction to Engineering, which we're going to meld some of our half-year electives into a one full year class. The following year, I put 9th, 10th, yeah, this is probably the way to go, 9th, 10th, and then 11th or 12th, depending. Principles of Engineering, and then the last year, Computer Integrated Manufacturing, which, because in central Massachusetts especially, that is one of the fields that is hot in STEM because of it is not your grandfather's manufacturing anymore. It is computer integrated manufacturing, and it's computer science. It is robotics and CNC machines, laser cutters, all that. And we have some of that equipment already. This is just gonna really pave the way to make it a nice, integrated, and relevant curriculum for our kids. So, with that, the last thing that I have to talk about is our innovation pathways. So, Mr. Chaplin and I have been really working hard this whole year on our application to DESE about innovation pathways. And what this is the program by DESE designed to give students coursework and experience in a specific high-demand industry, such as information technology, engineering, healthcare, life science, and advanced manufacturing. So there's basically 5 design principles to become an innovation pathway at your school. And this is, these are equitable access for all students. So basically anyone can apply, anyone can do it. Guided academic pathway, which must relate to one of those industries. Enhanced student supports, connections to career, and deep partnerships between high schools and employers and workforce development boards. So we've already been in touch with a lot of local employers. We were in touch with the workforce board, and as Dr. Nash announced a couple weeks ago, that we are happy to report that we have been selected as innovation pathway designees and for our engineering and our biomedical science program. I'm going to invite Mr. Chaplin up right now so we can talk a little bit more about that together. But Project Lead the Way has been a real impetus behind that, and basically some of that is that there are technical classes. Our engineering counts as a technical class, and of course our AP classes that we have. So what?
So this is a big deal. We wrote a budget. The budget was for $107,000. Our goal is to transform some needed science labs, as well as across the hall here, we're going to create a wonderful fabrication lab in our engineering rooms. And once we got this designation, it opens us up to a lot more grants. So we took advantage of that when we were in the finals, and I asked DESE when we were at the presentation, and I said, just because we're in the finals, can I apply for some of these other grants? And they said, sure you can. So I applied for another $100,000 in a capital skills grant, which we'll also do again next year in a larger amount to buy specific equipment, okay, and some updated engineering equipment that we're going to need. We're going to collaborate with, there's a fabrication lab in Whitensville that Lieutenant Governor Polito has been talking about for the last 2 years. So we're going to be a part of that collaborative as well, go down there.
Which is that, the Blackstone Valley Ed Hub.
Blackstone Valley Ed Hub. And really, when Karen's been an unbelievable partner in this, and it was all year. We started in September.
Basically, we get the email in September saying, hey, since you have Project Lead the Way, and we do have the STEM certificate program, right? So this is kind of a backbone that we're gonna really enhance. We think you could probably do this. And it was like 50 pages, what? And I said, hey, what do you think? And we were both like, okay, let's go. So.
And they said, we're going to interview us? I'm going to interview us.
Yeah.
So we went, and really the 2 industries that we focused on was engineering, really manufacturing, and the biomedical was the obvious 2 industries. And it's really about an immersive experience. So Karen and I searched around the area for some partners to get a memorandum of understanding. So right down the street I could throw a rock and hit their company. Gentex Optics is a global company
Right.
that is unbelievable in manufacturing. So when Karen said, my dad worked in a factory and my grandfather worked in a factory, Milford Shoe Factory. Do you remember it? Closed it down 20 years ago. But it was filthy, okay? My dad worked in a GAF. They made shingles, okay? Filthy, okay? That's not what manufacturing is today, and it's the biggest gap right now because the workforce right now are retiring. They're not that comfortable working side by side with robotics and automation. They're nervous about that. So when we went to Gentex, we spent probably 3 hours there, and we toured the facility, immaculate. It was almost like a Disney monorail they had above it, carrying the optics, the lenses all onto the different stations. So. We decided to really make a big push to see if they would partner with us and provide job shadowing for our students. And on that given day, QVCC was there, a community college in Connecticut, that one of the things that Gentex said, the HR said, that when people come and apply for a job here, we're sending them to go and get a certificate at the community college. And Karen and I said, we can do that. Kids could leave high school with that same skill set. So we're working at developing courses around that, an OSHA course to get certified when you leave here, and really to collaborate with them and saying this is what we need in our young workforce coming in. And the reality is that manufacturing can be a very nice career. It'd be a very nice career, and you have to be able to be comfortable with the robotics and be able to be an engineering technician. Okay, so all of our collaboration is going to be around how do we design courses so when kids leave here, they can go right into a job there. So job shadowing, real world problem solving. The biomedical is a little bit different, okay, because west of 495, it's really hard to find. Okay, east of 495, there's a biomedical company on every corner. So we've tried to partner with some biomedical companies in Central Mass, but it's pretty saturated. Worcester is in there a lot. So we've decided, along with Uxbridge High School and a few other high schools we're collaborating with, is we're going to go east. We're going to go into Boston. And this I think they liked during our interview, that we're going to create a hybrid experience where students here are going to go and attach to a biomedical company in Boston, maybe spend 2 days in person there throughout the year, but Skype, just like normal business world, online, do a lot of problem solving throughout the year to get that job shadow and immersive experience. So we're excited. The other kicker that we found out at the end of this, we kind of knew it was going to happen, but at the end is the, I want to say potential, but it's going to happen. Kids in when we designate them to be Innovation Pathway students, we will get a higher per pupil rate from DESE. Almost $1,000 more per pupil.
For the students in the program.
For the students in the program. So we're going to put everybody in there. Okay. No, we're not going to do that. But that is significant because we will continue to build that. And I haven't told Mr. Matthew this, but all the money's going to come back here. It's not going to go back into the general budget, right? Right. So that's exciting. The grants and the opening the door for the grants is good, but that's really the ticket that we've been looking for a while. Right. And it could lead to Chapter 74 and other things. Right. I also think it looks good with MSBA. I know you talked about that a little bit too. Right. That we're on the cutting edge and getting future ready.
This is a push from the state, and we are literally getting in. I know. I think I still don't have exact numbers. There were 4 designees last year, and the new designees, I reached out to my contact at DESE yesterday to say I'm presenting a school committee, and I just want to give them numbers of how many other high schools are in this, and they said it's still embargoed. We can't tell you yet. So, but it's probably maybe 10 more. Yeah.
I'm saying 6.
Yeah.
We're
one of them. So we're very excited.
Yeah. That's great.
So that's what I got. Does anyone have any questions?
Your high school today is not your old high school, and shouldn't be, of just taking disconnected Carnegie units, if you will, that really don't prepare kids for a lot. This precludes that a lot of dynamics that need to change. Down the road, when we start talking about, things like Skyping, that's one thing, but to give a real hands-on experience for a child, authentic learning, a student, then you have to look at the structure of your schedule, to provide that opportunity for students. You can't do it within a rotating structure that you have. So there are things that have to happen down the road for this. And I think we are, quite frankly, given the fact that you're in a facility that is somewhat not 21st century, that you're able to do this. And I can tell you that there aren't a lot of school districts in the state of Massachusetts. There are so many things that Governor Baker has talked about in his presentations with respect to making those connections for kids, making the partnership connections. You know, we did it years ago with dual enrollment, for example. So a student could go to college, you know, and still be in high school enrolled in both. This is for those students. It isn't like your grandfather's day, if you will, manufacturing in the old sweatshops that we knew them. This is not what this is about. And the need for us to look at our curriculum and to let go of some of the things that we're doing and change that so that all students, it's about opportunity, access, and equity. And this is what some of this does. It takes away and promotes a different approach to teaching and learning, a hands-on approach that provides opportunity for these kids to be in authentic, real-world experiences. You saw that one of the requirements to have this designation was opportunity and access for all students. So I really congratulate. There's a lot of work that has gone into this, you know, on Mrs. Airy's part, on Mr. Chaplin's part, and certainly it's not the end. And I'm really excited about just listening to part of this. It connects back to, you know, Project Lead the Way. It connects back to project-based learning. It's authentic, you know, real experiences for kids. So.
If you teach long enough,
yeah,
it all comes back because, like 40 years ago, we had pathways in our school.
Study, I think.
Right. We had different courses.
Yeah, right.
A business course. Right. You had a practical course. Does anybody remember? Mm-hmm. And that was just like Pathway. If you're going into business, then you learned everything that had to do with the business. And so it all comes back in a different way. Very good. Thank you, Karen. That was a good presentation. Now we have update on District Food Services Program, and Matthew Greenberg is here this evening. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Be careful with the curtain.
Should pull it down a second.
Here to give you an update on how we are doing as a whole as a district with unpaid meal balances. I know this is a touchy subject. I know this is an emotional subject. I just want to let everyone know that I am a parent of two. So this does affect me, although my kids don't go to this school district. Since the last school committee meeting, we've managed to collect about $5,000.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
That is.
But it's a drop in a bucket if you look at the big picture. So yes, we do have some success. On the flip side of that, we sent out 32 certified letters to families that were considered the largest offenders, if you will. They carried $7,500 worth of the 30,000. I've gotten 10 responses back. So, not
was that money?
No. That's just receipts that they got the letter. So out of these 10, I've been in contact with 4. So, you know, I can keep going, I can keep trying, but it's really, it's kind of depressing at the same time that we're putting so much work and effort into trying to keep the financial health of the district, and we're getting, you know, we're getting somewhere very, very slow, but it's not really going as well as I hope to. I sent out over 3,000 emails over the last couple of weeks to anyone who has ever had a balance in the school district. So we have received phone calls from Bay Path saying that there are children that like to pay their balance off, but they had no idea that it was coming from us because they left here with a balance. I've had people that have graduated email me saying we shouldn't have this. I haven't been in school in 3 years, but they graduated with a balance, so we sent them the email anyway. I still haven't seen a check from the kids from Bay Path or anyone else who's been outside the district. Going kind of slow on that one. What I found out through all this, and more or less this is, I believe, a breakdown of communication at every level. Every school follows a different policy in regards to how they contact the parent with a delinquent account, how they treat the debt, and that includes my staff as well. All the managers are doing different things. This kind of falls on me as well. Being new to the district, I was under the assumption that everything was going to be streamlined and followed, you know, a standard operating procedure, which it is not. So we need to, going forward, establish new standard operating procedures at the school levels with the managers on communications. I think most of this can be avoided with solid communication. The policies need to be addressed clearly. Student handbook, parent handbook, the FNS website, school orientation, parent orientation, as well as any Twitter, Facebook, social media profiles that individual schools have. Another thing that we have run into, another issue that we have run into is the inaccuracy of addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and other important contact information. It's hard when we send out letters and they get returned to sender because they don't live there anymore. It's hard to track students when there's no email address, there's no phone number that we can call. Another issue that we've come up with is the picture, the identification system inside the POS. The parents are not updating the pictures, so we have a senior that we kind of joke around with, but his picture is from 4th grade. So when he comes through the line, I get a 9-year-old boy for an 18-year-old man. There is no way, if I don't know him, I have no way of seeing if that's actually him or not. And I can't go in there and take pictures of the students and upload them. I can't go in there and make sure that each individual family's contact information is correct. So that's something else that we kind of have to work on going forward. Another way I think that we can get this under control going forward is that we allow food service employees to tastefully communicate with the students by saying, hey, have mommy send them out tomorrow, or have mommy give us a call. At the primary level. At the high school level, they should be told their balances. If it's slipped to them, or we pull them over in a meeting, or we get their email address, a 17 or 18-year-old student is an adult. They're going to college next year. These are decisions that they're going to have to deal with. There are ramifications for not paying your bills. It's a life lesson that we need to teach. You know, a lot of times, what I've gotten over the last 3 weeks, I get a lot of angry phone calls. My child would never eat at school because I send them with lunch. I send them the report. I say, please talk to your student, go over this, let me know. The next day, I don't get a phone call, but the debt is paid. I get phone calls, someone else has taken my child's number and punched it in. I cannot vouch for that, but I know certain schools require the ID badge to be scanned in. So that's one way of preventing that, but again, the pictures aren't updated, so a 10th grader can have a picture from 1st grade up there, and we have no idea on if that's accurate or not. This is hard for me, because I know this is a really emotional subject. We've heard, you've given my kid a credit card and I didn't approve of it, so that is your problem. I've heard, we've heard enough, to put it nicely. It's also hard on my staff. They're long-term employees of this district. Some have been around longer than I've been alive. When they see the balances skyrocketing, they're getting nothing in return. It's a morale crusher. It really is, because there's nothing they can do. Back in the day when the policy was probably created in this district, which prides himself on community and family, everyone did the right thing. That is not the case anymore. I can't sit here and look at you honestly and believe that 1,861 families need assistance. And if they do, the ones that have reached out to me, I have worked with to get them on a payment structure, to maybe work around some of the debt. Maybe they forgot to fill out their FNR app, they filled that out incorrectly, we walk them through it. But I've come up with a couple plans for next year. For this year, I'd like to go forward. I have 3 collections agencies that do pro bono work. The fee is between 20 and 30%, which is a lot of money. However, in business, let's say 25,000, I believe 19 grand of 25,000 is better than 0 of 25,000. I've heard people come to me and ask if the balances that were shown 3 weeks ago were cumulative, were they carried over? The answer to that, and scary enough, is no. Those are current. So the 29,000 isn't 20,000 from last year plus 9, it's 29,000. It's, you know, if we follow the run rate, we're gonna be at 40K. So I'm not trying to be hard on families, but I think you guys who set the direction for the district need to understand where we're at and where we're going, and it's an unsustainable path. So, that being said, for next year, I would like to revisit the policy and go to a sliding cap. And what I mean by a sliding cap is we will allow students to charge 10 meals at the secondary and high school levels. That's 2 weeks. At the primary school levels, 15 meal charges in 3 weeks. With the communication and that much time, we should be able to get in touch with the parents and work something out, see if they need assistance and how we can help. Negative balance letters will be produced from my office every Thursday and Friday from the manager of the school involved. This will be the first point of contact going forward, where we're going to reach out twice from our level. The second point of contact should be communication with the school administration. Now, I understand that the principals and their administration they have a lot on their plate, and I'm not asking for a lot. But what we're going to do is give them a list of the people that are delinquent or in arrears, and they know the families better than I do, and they can go down the line and say, this family's going to need help. This family's going to need help, and we could reach out to them and work something out. You know, sometimes there's families that just don't qualify for FNR. They're just right over the line. The principals and school administration probably know those families the most, and I'm not here to tell people they can't eat and we don't care about your children, but we need to make sure that we can differentiate from people that need assistance and people that are abusing the system. All right. The third and final point of contact will be a certified letter and email from myself. This will be the last attempt on my part to collect the debt before adverse action is taken. Now, I understand you don't want to go after the children, and children have no control over their situation. However, when a parent gives their kid a $100 bill to go pay off the debt and they don't pay it off, and the parent calls me upset that I just gave little Timmy $100 cash, what do you mean I still owe $100? I can't do anything about that. I can't hold the child's hand and make him give me the money. And that's where we're at the high school level. Kids do that. They have money. They want to buy a cookie or a snack. Hey, you have a negative balance. You could see the $20 in their hand, and they're like, oh, well, take out the $1 for the cookies and give me back the 19. They don't deposit any money. So the a la carte part of our policy currently now doesn't work because the kids just walk around it. They'll get their friends who have positive balances to buy whatever they need. So I am proposing that if someone has a negative balance at the end of the year, or they're in arrears at the time where certain things happen, any fee activity, including graduations, proms, parking spaces, cap and gown, sports, show choir, music, if they can afford to go to Florida, they can afford to pay their food bill. It's one or the other. When I was growing up, my parents had to deal with the coaches because there was a fee to play. We didn't have a sports director, but they would call the coaches and say, hey, I can't give you the fee up front. Can I give you a little bit now, and can we figure something out? And my coaches were always willing to help. People need to help themselves and ask for help. If they don't if they don't have the money, reach out. I'll help you fill out the F&R form. The other adverse action that should be taken after the third step, small claims and/or collections agencies. This should be the final step, the absolute worst step. Okay? Another thing that I'd like to go forward is maybe a prepaid bonus. You know, this has worked at other districts where you put in maybe $50, $100 and you get 10, 15, 20% added on to you as courtesy of the food service department. Just so you know, I have been, families that are in need, that have reached out with large debts, I have taken 10 or 15% off once they start a payment plan with me, as a sign of good faith. You owe $197, send $20 in with your child, and when I get it, I'll knock off 10% off the start, so it's a double payment. It's a sign of good faith. It's a sign that it's not that I want you to not pay, to pay me, but we need the money as a school district because, it comes out of the GL, and it's $85,000 over 5 years. So if that's where you guys want me to do, if you guys want me to allow this to happen, it's your direction, and I gladly will. I mean, the amount of hours I've spent on this with one particular member of my staff, I could have done a lot of other things this year. But I feel that it's my responsibility and my job to inform you what is happening. So that's, any questions, concerns?
I don't feel I want the students in the middle of this. The parents owe the money.
Yep.
It's their responsibility. I don't like any shaming of kids that need a lunch.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've read so many articles on that. I mean, this is a problem in every state.
Yes.
Food shaming with our students. The parents' responsibility, you should have to deal with the parents, not the kids that are getting their lunches. That's my philosophy.
I don't think he's suggesting that we put the kids in the middle. I think he's suggesting that we take steps to address this with the parents.
Well, he did say to speak to, like, oh, I need to talk to your mother, your mommy.
Oh, no,
I don't even want saying that to the kids in school. That's my philosophy. Go ahead. You can.
I just want to say, I mean, there's different levels here. When we're talking about elementary school children, certainly you're not going to have that conversation with an elementary school child. But at the high school, these are young adults, responsible adults that are going into the workforce. And they are old enough, as a 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grader, to pay their bills, to be responsible, and to have adult conversations about these things. And if simply put, the food services personnel are saying something as simple as, please have your parents give us a call, your account is below zero. I don't think that that's...
Well, that's high school. I was talking about.
I don't think that that's a terrible thing to do. I think they need to take responsibility for their actions. Even as an 8th grader or a 7th grader, they know what they're doing. But, we can take those out of the picture and focus on the high school because that's an entirely different level. I mean, we cannot continue to perpetuate this debt. Our district needs this money. We're not talking about people that cannot pay. Those folks, we have remedies for that. And food services is going above and beyond to make sure that we find those people and provide that assistance. We're talking about people that are abusing the system, who have been abusing the system for a very long time, and this debt is increasing over time. And every year, these same people potentially are getting away with doing this over and over because at the end of the year, that debt is taken out of our general fund, which we cannot afford. And it's wiped out for them, and they start with a clean slate in the fall, and they know this.
Can I ask a question? I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So, the picture updates. One of the questions I have is that does our student management system talk to his system? Like that he can upload those pictures from the IDs every day, every year?
There's a process to do that. Mr. Greenberg joined us this year and has done a fantastic job of uncovering these small little blips, so that we can target improvement in those. So we're certainly going to have to talk about, each year when the new pictures come out, shouldn't they be uploaded to everybody as opposed to just doing it, once or once every couple of years.
And also too, though, like, I'm hoping that our contact information that we have in our databases are more accurate than maybe what he has, and that we can also share that information.
That's how the information that Mr. Greenberg's system does get. It is directly from School Brains, but sometimes it's only line 1, and you may need 4 lines. So again, another area where we have to take a look and say, what's the best way of remedying this particular issue and problem?
And I have a feeling probably in the past that we haven't probably been so aggressive with collecting these bills, because we let people graduate, and that is one thing we shouldn't do unless they pay they lose books, they owe money, and we let them graduate. You're not going to collect that money anymore if they're somewhere, if they're at different schools or colleges.
If it pleases you, I went through the inactive and graduate list, and people over the last 5 years, graduates have walked away with $2,800 of unpaid meal debt. That doesn't include $1,200 worth of transfers out from the high school. This is not how I wanted to spend my first year.
No.
And this is just my background. Is you go after, you find the problem, the biggest problem, you go after it. This is the biggest problem.
You have any idea why it's gone up so much from 2015, do you think? Why do you think that jumped from 6 to 14?
If you think about it, let's say this policy started when the kids were in 7th grade, and they knew they got away with it. Now they're in 8th grade. Now they're in 9th grade. Now they're in 10th grade. And now, families move in, families talk, and now it's out. So if you look at the history balances, the middle schools and the high schools are the highest ones, and that's 5 years of policy. And if you figure that 6th grade to 12th grade is 6 years, that's how it's just jumping up.
Through the chair. Just to follow up, I've heard Mr. Greenberg speak. He's come into Budget and Finance on 2 occasions to discuss, and I know we talked about in the suggestion of him coming to policy and discussing policy issues versus procedural issues. But I did want to present a follow-up. When I presented this information at the last meeting, and it was acknowledged that Charlton Elementary School had such a low amount of money, and Mrs. Pacheco did follow up with an email to me to share the things that they did. And I think the most striking thing that she said is that it was a group effort, everyone from the office to classrooms to the cafeteria. And what they do is they send home a note, a little small note every week, alerting the parents with an amount that they're in deficit. And that's what you're speaking about, is this weekly communication of alerting parents where they are. I know that the information at our last meeting and the discussion on this topic was picked up on social media, and there was a great flurry of conversation on social media. And some of the things that came out in that process is, I think there's probably some not effective use on the parents' part as far as the alert systems, and people are not getting emails when they thought they signed up for emails. So I know in our discussion at Budget and Finance this time, Mr. Matthew had talked about the process that you're going to do for greater communication for people to understand the system and utilize the system properly. But I think the piece that we're missing that we need to find is that very frequent conversation, so that we're getting to people before a negative balance skyrockets to a very large negative balance. And I think that might be something. I know that was a point that you had made. The staff that work in the cafeterias have said, because we're not doing that anymore, this problem is growing. So I don't know the direction to go. I certainly, with Mrs. Antossi and I working on policy, think that we should look at it as a policy issue, and then clarifying some of the things that you want procedurally, I think, is the next step for us as far as, moving forward in a positive way without eliminating, eliminating the things that there are concerns about.
And there should be uniformity for everyone.
Yes, I totally agree.
We get updates often as parents, probably like 3 times a week when there's menu changes. They come through text messages, they come through emails. Perhaps once a week there's a click on this to check your balance or make sure you're good on your balance, or it can be more strongly worded at the beginning of this, but we get mozzarella sticks got changed to pancakes, and it's quite a topic on the social media that we're on. Those things happen. I feel like we could use this to change this. And to the point that Pauline made, that there's a lot of families that are in need, and we shouldn't go after them. I don't think that's what I hear you saying you're going to do. On the opposite side of that, I've had a lot of people that have either listened to our meeting the last time or saw it on social media and are quite upset that that number is so high. So they're saying, we pay, we go on, we're making sure we're doing this. So don't feel like beat down by the system. There are a lot of people that have very high value in the work that you guys do.
And then there's people that are on the borderline that they don't qualify for the free or reduced lunch. Maybe some of those owe money. But I understand the high school, some of these are taking advantage of it, the older kids. But I think in the little kids, it's just not their fault. They have to get to the parents, you know.
I totally agree with you. I mean, you cannot blame a 7-year-old for their situation. It's.
But the younger grades are the ones that are more compliant.
And it seems like they are.
I just want to acknowledge again Charlton Elementary School, because included in Mrs. Pacheco's email was their use of staff dress down day funds to pay accounts when they know a family is going through a hard time, as well as Mrs. Pacheco personally providing money to the cafeteria staff for particular children that she know have a struggle that goes above and beyond. So there are things that can be done, and I know we have had such wonderful community service projects, you know, at our middle school levels, at our elementary levels, at our high school levels, that this is possibly some way that individual schools might do a fundraising effort once a year to contribute money to those particular families that are struggling in that area that don't qualify for that. That might be able to help some of those deficit accounts as well, just as a suggestion.
Get donations
We receive donations on a fairly regular basis now. Yes.
to pay for the people that are delinquent. Go ahead.
My question to you is, I have a couple. So at the high school level, if a student comes in with cash, like I feel like if they have a negative balance, a check should be brought in, not cash. That it should go directly to you, and then like that should be something that should be sent to the parents, because you can say, like we've had in the past, kids do not pay the balance, and we want to make sure that your money goes where it needs to be. And then as far as the sliding scale, the sliding cap model, and I don't know if you're trying to appease us by like putting the easier model in, like I'm all about the hard cap model. Like I feel we have that at our high school, and maybe you're a hard cap at the high school because you're still allowing them 3 meals.
So here was my reasoning behind the sliding cap is that this is going to be a Band-Aid that we're ripping off very quick.
Okay.
Okay, I figured 1 year, let's see how it works. Okay. We'll still allow some charging, and then if everyone does the right thing, and my staff included, then we don't get to these levels. You know, we can handle a $29 debt, because I think if you owe money and you get a bill saying, I owe $29, you might be more apt to handle it, even if you're struggling. Whereas if I drop a $200 bill on your table and you're struggling, you're not going to want to attack that. That's just, you're overwhelmed. So the sliding cap is more, yes, to appease the school committee and to show that I don't want to just put down, you have no money, you have no food. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's human.
You know. The other thing I would say too, and I think you guys talked about, is that, you know, as I sit here, I'm thinking to myself, oh God, I hope I don't have a balance. But, which my husband pays that, so I'm pretty sure no. But, you know, when I get the weekly, you haven't returned this library book notice in my bag, you should be sure I'm searching the rooms for that library book. Like if the little guys could get a little slip that said to the parents at the end of the week, you know, you're really close, you might want to go into
The communications folder.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board with that. It's the policy that's we're following now, the current policy. I'm not exactly sure on how to err with that. I didn't want to start, giving teachers envelopes and then find out that we are overstepping our bounds.
I think some of this procedurally, through the chair, I think we do have a policy subcommittee, I believe on the 30th, Mrs. Antossi, that maybe we could address some of this with policy, and then between now and then, if, I know one of the points that you made was synthesis across the district, that everybody's approaching it the same way. So school across works, we were pairing the elementary with the middle with the high school. Going forward, I think it's great, but, just based on what feedback I received from Mrs. Pacheco, obviously the weekly communication piece hits. It could be a very simple thing of checking out, similar to how Easy Pass hits you on the turnpike. Your balance is less than $10, be aware, or you're in a negative balance and, there will be no further charging past this date. In just contact information, there's no amounts there, there's nothing at that, it's just a very simple thing that could be sent home. And then I don't disagree with Mrs. Antossi that when we're getting to a high school level, I frequently see on social media that we should be teaching financial management. Well, obviously this is a really good place to start that conversation with that, but procedurally we can address it. My question right now is, based on the fact that you've moved forward with the notification, we talked about starting that at 175 and up. You've issued one certified letter, there's some, only 1/3 that have connected.
Yep.
Okay, and you're going to do the next step. How are we moving forward? We talked about that being in a 3-week cycle, yep. And then with the collection agency information that you have, where are we moving forward on trying to resolve a very large debt between now and the end of the school year?
I am going to schedule appointments for the agencies to meet with me and Mr. Matthew so we can get an idea of how they are going to try to collect. Okay. We don't want to bring in a company that is, so, it has to be done with tact. It has to be done with some care, but there has to be teeth. There has to be a consequence that will happen. In regards to certified letters, most of the balances are going to fall in that second wave, that 75 to 125. So we're going to start emails and phone calls from my office first before we get to certified mail, just because the cost and the sheer volume of work. I wasn't really sure how certified letters really worked, but after 4 trips to the post office and a whole bunch of handwritten labels and forms, it might not be the most efficient use of time. So we'll...
Through the chair. So to that end, I have 2 questions. The 32 letters that you sent out, how many of those are for the high school?
That is a good question. I'll have to email you guys back on that.
Then let me ask it a different way. How many of those are for the very young kids?
I think Mason Road had 0 on the offender list. Charlton L had 0. Most of them were middle school and high school.
Okay. And so my next point was going to be, and I think it may only work through middle school, but if you took like lime green paper and you printed out what's due, like somehow you have a form letter and you put it on there and you give it to the classroom teachers to send home. I get it's not in the policy, but we're trying to collect $25,000 here in a short period of time. Why wouldn't we try to do that?
I think that would go to the thing of shaming. If one kid gets a letter.
If it was in an envelope.
Oh, I'm okay with that. I just didn't want
it's lime green so that the parent reads it when they get it, but it's in an envelope that goes home to, put it in my teacher, or the teacher's mailbox to go home to my son, and then I get it at home.
I'm fine with that as long as the principals and the school committee is on board.
Let me just say, if we wait till you do the policy, we can suspend this policy at any time. If there's something you think we should do now, that's going to take a month to change it for the
That's
double
what I
reading.
mean.
So why don't we just suspend the policy and discuss what you want to do, and that way you can do it. That would save a month.
Well, we still have to address the policy because we're
I
doing
know,
the
but I
reviews
think
right
you
now
want
for
to
the
do
future.
something to-
Right,
right
I
now.
don't disagree with that.
I think we should suspend the policy and tell us what you want to start doing. And we'll either.
I also think calling all these people and sending all these emails is going to take more time, and you may not get to them. I think if you sent it home through the teachers to their kids directly, you're going to get to them faster.
Well, there is nothing in your current policy that prohibits Matthew to go forward, mail and communicate. Mail a letter, email. However, there's nothing, you have it. Your current policy allows you to do that. Deficit accounts, when the student account exceeds the cost of 10 lunches, the food service director or designee will mail a letter and/or send an email to parents or guardians requesting immediate payment. So communication, I think, however you do that. And then we'll assist the family if needed.
Have you mailed letters? Have you been mailing letters? Not
Yes.
emailing, but mailing.
Yes, and Lucille keeps a very detailed log on who gets a letter, what day they get a letter. So, I mean, we have families that we sent letters home 9/1, 9/27, 10/10, 10/18, because on 10/10, the FNR expired for the 30 days. She has a list with
Didn't you
dates.
say you're spending like $700 worth of your work, of $700?
A week.
You're just spending about $700, your pay is going towards this
A
paperwork.
month, yes, because it's my salary and it's
Because-
Lucille's salary, and we're not really working on anything else except
Right.
for this.
So, if I could just make a couple of points. I think we're trying to solve a problem in a very short period of time, and this has not been a problem that just has come about, recently. You've had this growing problem, as we could see in this deficit, for 5 years or more. And so we're trying to undo it all at once. I think, number one, I think communication is going to be key. Ongoing, consistent communication. What that form looks like has to be, I think, very much part of that discussion. What it looks like at the elementary level, middle, and secondary level is going to be different based on the nature of students, their age and everything else. So I think that's important. One size doesn't fit all in this case. But I think the fact that, one, a concerted effort, the fact that parents are aware of it and know that, and that we have updated information, that we look at some of our processes that we currently have, what's not speaking. One of the questions that I had in thinking through this is, currently, what is the process for the way our parents can go in to update their own information in the parent portal? Do we allow that? Or does it have to be done via a secretary? How is that done? Because I think that presents some challenges when all of a sudden letters come back or communications come back. So I think that's something. Pitches certainly are another whole thing that we need to look at. But I think looking at, and then the third piece is this accountability. I think that comes after a period of time. This is new. I don't think what Matthew is doing, I don't think has been tackled in the past 5 years in the way that he's tackled it. In that he's making a consistent, concerted effort to try to deal with an issue or a problem that, quite frankly, has existed and grown over time. So I just think we do have to look at this and figure it's not going to change overnight. And I think we've got to look at it and take a graduated approach to this in trying to solve this problem. And once we get to a certain point, I think the message becomes clearer to people that, yes, we do want to work with you, but we are going to hold you accountable. And we are going to communicate with you. Whatever the policy that you want to change with respect to meals or number or point, but I think getting people to understand through communication, you're close to a balance of zero, you're in a deficit. The more we can do that on an ongoing basis in a variety of ways, working with principals to understand what's the best communication mechanism, the better off we're going to be in trying to solve it long term.
Now, just this year, what does the high school owe? Just this year?
$10,394.
As of yesterday.
It was 14,000.
It was 14, went down to
Right.
It's 10,000, yep.
10,394. Sure.
So it has gone down.
Yes, it was 14.
It was 14, and I was told that once the seniors hit, spring break, spring vacation, it's ready to go, but, I mean, there's still 4 other grades. 3
That
other
was
grades.
just what they charged for this year.
Correct.
Not, you're not counting the kids that graduated
Nope.
that owe money.
Nope, that is in the inactive
Okay.
roster. This is current, and what's a little scarier too is I didn't start until the last week of September.
Right.
And so I actually didn't zero the balances out until I started, so it could have been a lot higher.
Yeah, and last
Yeah.
year, can you remember what was last year?
Yeah, we got here 6,800.
Yeah, I know, but I want this out.
6,800.
6,800.
Right. I want it out so people know. So it
That
was
is-
6,800 last year.
Correct, for the entire school year.
The year before that was 2,800.
Right.
So where we're at, a month ago, we were at 14,000.
So is it because we're not as aggressive that it keeps going up?
I wasn't here, so.
I know you
Yeah,
are.
I mean, it's a tough.
I have that feeling that, these kids are getting away with it because I don't
course.
think it's
I
been.
mean, you give-
Let me give you my 5 cents.
Okay.
And then I'll go back and sit over there, okay? When I looked at the $10,000 bill today, okay, there were about 287 people listed on that invoice. 20 of them were staff, okay, that had high bills, okay, that Matt will take care of on a separate basis, okay? When I did a deeper dive, there was about well over $1,000 in there of people that had a balance, but then qualified for free and reduced lunch. Zero that out. If they couldn't afford it before then, they're not going to afford it after, okay? So that's $1,000 right there. I think if we keep digging, the number's going to go a little bit lower, okay? And, my philosophy is, I don't want any kid in my building being shamed. I don't care how old they are, 14, 18, 25, or whatever, okay? Because when I got here, staff were pulling trays from people. That's not happening, okay? There are things that we put in place, okay, over the last 3 years where, the graduation, we get a big influx of 12th graders that pay their balances in April right now, okay? Last year, we instituted, you had to be in good financial health to get a parking sticker, okay? We didn't include cafeteria. We will this year. So that'll take care of the 11th graders because they all want a parking space, okay? So they have to. So that's going to wipe out some of that balance. When I looked at it, out of the 10,000 people, I mean, $10,000 balance, and there was like 260 kids, I think, that were actual kids. But that means 833 kids in this building have a good balance. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I don't want to paint a picture that Shepherd Hill is this thing that kids are getting taken advantage of, and parents are taking advantage of things. Are there a handful of parents? Absolutely. But there are also a handful of parents that don't qualify for financial aid that are struggling. So if someone calls me and says, I got to pay the electric bill, pay the electric bill. We'll figure out this cafeteria balance. That's my philosophy. I'm sorry. And you said about sports and other things. I'm not taking away sports from anybody. I'm sorry. If you force me to do that, I'll think hard about it. Okay. People walk in from graduation. I will refer the parents to this committee to come in and talk because I'm not going to deal with that. Okay. So if a kid has a $50 balance, we're not going to have him walk at graduation. That's silly. That's silly.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
It's always been my philosophy. I wish that we did qualify for everyone getting free lunch. And we don't. And that, I think we're going to get Mason Road
I was
probably.
going to say, could you update the committee on where we stand with CEP?
We're pretty much 99.9% Mason Road's free and free next year.
Because I think that's part of your school lunch for the kids. I'm sorry. That's part of learning. They can't.
I
with
hope that you don't think that I'm trying to,
No,
and I'm
no.
not going to pull food from
No.
kids, but if someone needs help, the people that have needed help, especially at the high school level, the middle school levels, they have called me and reached out. So I understand that there are families that do the right thing, but it's really hard to differentiate, and that's why I defer to the school administration. Here's your list. Tell me who needs the help. Because if you don't, I'm going to treat all these delinquent accounts as, for the kids that owe free and reduced, they were sent out multiple communications letters that, hey, this is expiring on 10/10. You need to fill out this form. We sent you the form. We did all the legwork for you.
Yeah.
You just had to sign your name and send it back to us, and you would have been fine.
And some kids are embarrassed. They probably.
It's their parents. It's not the kids. We emailed it to the mom and dad, and all they had to do was sign it and put it back in the envelope we provided for them. Outside of signing it ourselves, listen, I definitely, if the free and reduced kids, they call me and say, hey, I have problems, we'll take care of it, but I'm not advertising that you're free and reduced. You had one job. You had one responsibility, is to sign your name and send it back, and everything, the postage was paid. If the parent doesn't care enough to sign it and put it back in the mail, how are we supposed to help them? Because they don't need that. It's not like, and I know I sound awful right now, but
No, you don't. You're doing your job. That's what they're here for.
if they are that, if they can't do one simple thing, we can't hold everyone's hand for them. We can't. There's 3,800 kids in this school district. If the parent raises their hand and says, Matt, I need help, I help them. And you can ask other principals that are sitting in this room. I will work with them, and I believe you know this.
Of course.
But if we send you 4 F&R apps with the letter saying it's expiring on 10/10, sign this and send it back, and they choose not to, they don't need the help. They've chosen to forego the help.
They're irresponsible, the parents.
But how? I can't differentiate here because it's not gray. It's black or white.
Through the chair. I don't think that there's any disagreement right now that the amount of money that is owed has various components to it. And I think through the work that you're doing, you're finessing out the people that qualify for free and reduced lunch that haven't submitted the applications or they've expired. That's one thing to tackle. Mr. Chaplin has identified families that don't quite qualify that are struggling. And I know that I specifically asked this question to Mr. Matthew, that the donations that are coming in, how are they being targeted? And he assured me that the principals are looking at targeting those donations to those families that are
Exactly.
struggling, that don't qualify. So we have a means of addressing that.
Yes.
And with community awareness, there might be more generosity being stepping forward to address those issues. I think what we're trying to get at is procedurally the fall through of people that maybe weren't aware there was struggles between parent and child with what was happening with money, or how we're notifying people in advance so that they're not falling into negatives. And then I think you're correcting the things that we've misstepped with procedurally.
Okay.
And then we have consistency throughout the system of how we're dealing with it, so everybody's approaching it the same way. I think once we put all of those things in place, you're going to get this down to a very small number of extreme issues that we will then deal with differently.
Case by case basis.
So that's, to me, the piece that gets taken care of with policy, procedure, and writing that out. My question right now is, what are we going to do between now and the end of the school year to try and recover as much of this money as possible so that we're not taking this out of our general budget, which can't afford to take a $25,000 to $30,000 hit between now and June 30th?
So what I've already started is overridden, whatever you want to call it.
That's okay. Whatever you
I wiped out the parent preferences for notifications for balances. So every Friday, the system automatically sends home an email, whether you owe 1 cent or $100. It's going. There's nothing I can do about it now because it's going. I think
Mrs. Terry.
Mrs. Terry.
Or Jamie.
Jamie, I think her idea of sending a letter home in the communications folder is a good idea. I think we should do that. At the at the secondary school levels, there's a lot more kids. I don't know if I can go into everyone's homeroom and drop it, and I can't expect Bill's staff to.
I don't know if it would work the same.
Yeah.
We don't have homerooms.
There you go.
So, maybe I can meet with the principals to decide, here's your lists, because they all have the lists. Which ones can we reach out to that need the help, and then we can go after the ones that don't need the help.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
And actually, I wanted to ask Mr. Chaplin. So you said you looked at the lists today, but extensively. And so if you could break it down, there was 260 kids, say you wipe 50 off, I don't even know, but let's just go with numbers, of people that really need help, and so they're not the people that we're
There was only about 20 that were over 200, that were from, 100 to 200. There was probably another 20 that was from, 99 to 100. So I broke it down that way. I looked at like 75 and over.
Well, that's
and
fine, but I guess my question to you is, looking at that list, do you immediately have ways that you know you could reach out to people that are on that list that truly owe because they're not paying, where Mr. Greenberg has run into some challenges with that?
Yeah, I mean, what we've done in the past is and again, Mr. Greenberg is doing a great job.
Right.
And he knows, what he said was is that we know the kids the best, and he's right with that.
Yeah.
So we could look at that list, Mr. Leach and myself, and say, yeah, and sometimes it's a family. There's 3 siblings on there, okay? That could equal $500 or $600 for 3 of them. So we know something's going on there. We'll call them down and say, listen, a couple of them are seniors. What can we do to get this going? So we do that outreach. I think there are other things that we can look into. There are some, quite honestly, I can go through and I can pick five people and say, just wipe it out. The situation at home is so bad right now where, an example is, one of the students is living with her sister now because both her parents took off. My thing's, wipe that out. That's a 0.
But that's something that would be very useful
Sure.
for him to know.
Yeah, sure.
Before he spends even more staff time trying to figure that all out.
Yeah.
Mr. Greenberg, there is a process where building principals can assist with a FNR form, is there not?
There is.
Yeah, okay. And we have covered that with building principals, so, but, certainly I think that's one option that we have as well, when there are circumstances known, that to make sure that those things are done as well.
We have to be careful with that option because the state monitors it very heavily, and if you start flooding the system with principal administration FNR forms, we open ourselves up to an audit.
So principal
Right.
could, is that what you're saying? A principal
You can
could
go,
sign off on it and
you
say,
can come
"Please
to
just
me
do
and
this"?
say,
Yeah, but if they see
This
that
family moved in
routinely,
with their
they'll audit
sister.
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or the homeless liaison can come and
Right.
say, it's, like I said, I think the biggest challenge is just communication.
Right. I think that's the key first. We're starting doing a regular ongoing basis is number one, so that people understand that, just as they get, at an elementary level, they get a backpack or they get an e-pack every week and they see things, they get that communication. Whichever way it works, and it looks different. And then you always have that challenge on the secondary level. One, for the free and reduced form, there tends to be, I don't care what district you're in, as you move up the years, those who are eligible, even though you have a number, they tend not to send it back. They just don't. You'll hear that all the time from food service directors, and you have to work at that. And we tend to do just a better job, I think, at the elementary levels for a lot of different reasons in the way we communicate. And as kids get older and strings, break their strings and become young adults, that communication tends to just dissipate and becomes less. So I think we just have to keep tackling it and find different ways that will work and see where we are at the end of this year with that balance. But I think, number one, the point is this, that the committee be informed of where we are at this point in time. One, that we know that we're a deficit. When we compare ourselves to the surrounding school districts, we are off the board. We're off the board. You saw that chart, those of you, when you compare yourselves to 13, 14 other school districts, we're way off the board. So, one, why? And I think we're starting to say that we need to communicate more effectively and better, and we're doing that. And see what difference that makes. See what difference that makes. Two, maybe then, if we find that makes a difference, we maybe do not have to revisit policy. It may make an impact, just the fact that you're communicating on a regular basis. One, that you know who needs help. Two, that people know that they have a deficit or they're close to a deficit. If that makes a difference, then policy maybe doesn't have to be revisited, and this kind of goes away and people understand. And then, so I think we've got to wait and see how this plays out over time. We're just starting to tackle this. Matthew, saw this as, here's the rock, I need to pick this rock up. As the new person on the block, I need to start tackling it, I need to make you aware of it. And I think we've had this discussion and continuing this with principals, and they know at their levels what's going to work best for them and what students, communication with Matthew and the principals about what may work is important too.
Any other questions for Matthew?
I just wanted to make the school committee aware of how essential Mr. Greenberg is to Shepherd Hill right now. To be honest, I didn't even know your name. You were just, sorry, until you walked in. He was just the new cafeteria guy that the whole entire school knows. And so ever since he came in September, the lunches have changed. And you guys might think, oh, it's just something small that, like, it's just high school. It doesn't matter. But the impact that he has on the school is tremendous. He comes out during the day, during the lunches. He's there from 6:30 in the morning serving breakfast to us, and then we have fourth lunch with him, and he is there, and he's talking to the students. And so I just want to give you credit where credit is owed. He has changed so many lives in the cafeteria just then, and you can see how happy the staff is working with him, too. They have smiles on their face every single day, and I haven't seen that from some of the cafeteria workers since before freshman year, I think that is. So he has just been essential to the growth of Shepherd Hill as a community, so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Very nice.
Now I'm turning red.
I was just going to absolutely back her up with that. I was actually just talking to Kevin about it, even though you didn't go through with the pasta today.
Chicken parma's my favorite.
No, really. I mean, the kids are eating breakfast. Like, they love, and I have not seen this in a very long time, and I just think it's amazing because the kids are like, Gus, can I run downstairs? Like, I gotta go grab breakfast. They come back with a yogurt and granola. How many kids, like, run to get that stuff? You know what I mean? And the kids now, they're running down for like the torpedo, whatever.
Yeah, those.
But they love going down, and they come back with food, and they eat their food, and just the change and just that. I mean, we have kids eating breakfast consistently. It's just amazing, and they all know Matt, and you know, maybe not by name, but you are the cafeteria guy.
Yeah, everyone calls you that.
But it's just great, and he's come into my classroom, as you guys, if you don't know me, I teach nutrition and health, and he's come into my class, in my period 6 class. They're like, when's Matt coming back? Because they try all the food before he puts it out in the cap. I mean, so they feel like his little taste testers, and you know, and it gives them a real awesome sense of just pride. And then they buy more food, and the other kids buy more food just because he comes into that one class. So I really have to commend that. He really makes a connection with the kids. Doesn't just give them meals.
And we all know that.
Yeah.
It's just a bad subject. So you don't have to convince us how good he is.
Thank you.
Because we actually know that.
Thank you, I
It's a
appreciate it.
bad subject when it comes, and Kathy knows that. Because my philosophy.
I know her philosophy.
So, thank you for doing a good
Thank
job.
you, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, good.
I understand there's a lot of compassion for individual families that have financial issues, and there's a lot of help there. I haven't really heard a real distinct plan on families that the administrators at the school have identified as having absolutely no financial issues at all. They're going on vacation next week to Europe and to Colorado to ski for the week, yet they owe $100 and they're not coming up with paying that. They're not responding to his emails. They're not responding to his letters. What's your plan for those folks?
Well, we have that in the policy right now that we go by. We don't have, go ahead.
So just to follow, through budget and finance, there's been a process put in place that Mr. Greenberg is approaching them systematically based on the amount owed. He's starting the process of contacting people to give him an opportunity to correct. He's moving forward with second notification, and then after he and Mr. Matthew get together and have interviewed and discussed with collection agencies, then they'll be coming back with a recommendation as to how to pursue people that are non-responsive. So it's still in process. Absolutely. That we can do that under policy. It's just we haven't, at any time before that, put in place this type of action. So we need to put those sources together so that Mr. Greenberg has an opportunity to use them.
I thought those were in place last year.
None of the debt, which is what he brought to our attention, is the debt has to be cleared out on June 30th. So that money, whatever the negative balance was paid out of general fund. We did not know that. We thought those balances carried over, so that they were continued to be pursued. So in budget and finance, he came and gave us a very thorough discussion
on this, and that's when it came to our attention, and that's why we've been responding accordingly.
So, well, it's an ongoing process. It's going to be a slow process too, because you're just starting this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
One more thing, and then we're going
I
on.
apologize. But Matt had told us about this issue, and in my classes, I was just saying to the kids, if you're a junior or senior, please make sure you guys pay your bill. And, I'm sorry, Mary?
Yes, Mary.
It goes exactly with what you were saying about the financing. They would come up, they're like, Gus, I owe $70. I can't even believe it. I'm glad I know now. But it was, so they had like the sense of pride that they knew what they owed and they were gonna pay it off. So it's just really neat to, I
Right.
just wanted to, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're up to the discussion of Mars District Office Reorganization Plan proposal. We are tabling this. We can vote this evening on the job descriptions, but the discussion and the reorganization, and we had 2 charts to look at, we're going to save that for next meeting, okay?
Right.
So you probably want to speak to that.
Yes, if I might,
Okay.
yes. So in the course of looking at all this, you would recall that we said we would put it back on the agenda for our discussion, give you the opportunity to digest this information that you received from the consultants at our last meeting. In further talking about this and thinking about this and having some conversations with our Budget and Finance Subcommittee, I think my recommendation to you would be twofold. One, that you do approve this evening job descriptions 2 through 20. I eliminate job description 1 because that is the superintendent of schools, and we probably don't need to redo the job description that was done so well, I think, when you were doing your search. So that's the reason why that. With respect to, while you certainly can have a discussion this evening around charts 1 and 2. What I'd like to be able to do is to bring back to you after my meeting with Superintendent-elect Lamache. I'll be meeting with him on April 26th, to come back at the May 8th meeting to get his intake and his input and weigh-in on both of these plans. He was able, in my conversation with him, he was able to view the meeting, the presentation on the 27th, but he did not have, at that point in time, we had not sent him the final 50-plus page document. So he has that, and I will be meeting with him in that afternoon, and I'd like to be able to come back and tell you, prior to your having discussion and any type of vote or action, what plan, if any, he supports, what way he sees the district or would like to see the district moving forward, so you will have his weigh-in, his input, before you have your discussion and take any kind of action. So that's why I would ask you to table any kind of vote this evening on that part.
And I think we should wait for our discussion when we hear about your little piece with, talk with the superintendent. And this way, we can just vote on the 2 to 20 job descriptions, and because it's already 10 o'clock, I think we should save our discussions for the next time.
I think we should table the job descriptions. I have quite a few comments. I don't want to hold us up. Why don't we put- These aren't important for the next.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
I table
So
the
then
whole
we'll
thing.
table the
It's
whole
10
thing
o'clock.
until next
You too,
time,
Mrs. Rabbit.
because it's already 10 o'clock, and I think it'd be more advantageous
Yeah,
anyway to
it's too
hear
late.
what the superintendent has to say before we discuss. Okay? So we will do that. And the discussion of the proposed district capital plan study, we're going to table that, and you'll probably want to say something to it, or?
Yeah, I think that's
defer.
all.
Actually,
Yes, right.
We did discuss the capital plan study and budget and finance on Tuesday, and with the discussion regarding the joint financial meeting, the vote on the budget to bring the $149,000 back into impacting the district budget, and I believe the need that we need to be having some conversations with both towns as far as how to get in sync with them regarding future capital needs. that the recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee was to not go forward with doing any kind of facility study at this point in time. However, we did discuss the immediate need to address Charlton Middle School's roof. And at this time, they will move forward. Mr. Matthew and Mr. Packard are working on having a roofing company come in to give some ideas and suggestions on what possible work might be able to be done by staff to try and put a finger in the dam, so to speak. But we would be moving forward in January with a debt exclusion request from Charlton to repair or replace the roof. So that at this point in time, any study would move off to next year with the intent that we would be having conversations with both towns to be able to start discussions on capital needs and expenditures beginning in fiscal year 21.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. And last on the agenda is consideration of requests for one-year leave of absence, and Dr. Nash?
Yes, certainly. You have in your packet this evening a request from Ashley Gustafson. She's here. So if you have any questions, she can answer them, but in short, Ashley is requesting in accordance with Article 15 of the DCTA collective bargaining agreement. She is requesting under Section L a request to take a leave of absence for the next school year, the 1920 school year. And that leave of absence is for the purpose of, as Article says and Section L says, for the purpose of study and research, including preparation for employment in another field. These leaves are unpaid leaves, as your article indicates, and these are submitted to me prior to June 1st, but action and on these leaves, all types of extended leaves of absence are under the provision of the school committee to approve or not to approve. So
Okay.
Ashley is here this evening. She certainly, if you have any questions or she can, any conversation you may want to have, she's here.
Oh, we can take the vote right away.
Make the motion allowing one leave of absence to Ashley Gustafson.
Second.
Okay, any
I
discussion?
just want to say we're going to miss you. She does outstanding
Yeah,
asset to the school. You're going to have to Skype or something.
Yeah.
We're going to miss you. You've done a lot for the school. We hope you come back.
Yeah, any discussion?
I just have one other question. How's the insurance work, so she'll know?
Yeah.
Cobra.
It's
Yeah,
Cobra.
I already
and-
You understand?
She's already-
Okay,
Yeah.
she understands.
And it's
Okay,
100%.
okay, I want you to-
Thank you for
Yeah, I
that.
thought you don't want that bill coming if you didn't know it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Did you want to speak?
Well,
No,
we'll
I
let
just
it,
have, I have magnets.
she doesn't have to explain
I know
why.
what she's passing. What she's passing out.
And what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
So I just
Do you want to? Tell us.
I started a motivational speaking business called Navigating Through Quicksand. So I keynote speak at conferences as well as do professional development workshops. So I work with like U Inc. and the Rhode Island Athletic Association as well. So now it's just starting to take off a lot, and so that's just a description of what I'll be
So
doing.
all in favor? You have your leave of absence. It's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good
Keep us
luck.
posted.
I will, definitely.
I think she probably thought we were going to say yes. That's good.
It's kind of nice to see
Yeah.
what people are doing. That's cool.
Very professional, Ashley. Very nice.
Thank you. And thank you guys for always supporting me with everything I've ever done.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Because you deserve it. Good work.
Okay, and I'm going to go right to the next meeting date, school committee meeting, Wednesday, April 24th. That'll be at the Charlton Middle School, and it will start at 7 p.m. Budget and Finance Subcommittee, Tuesday, April 23rd, Shepherd Hill Regional High School.
I just interject something, I want to ask Mrs. Rapp. Do you think we should cancel that? Because they're on vacation next week. I think we should cancel till May. What do you think? Because the office is basically closed next week. They will only.
I was going to say your packets will not be out on
Right,
Friday.
because they're on
They'll be out
vacation.
on that Monday when
I
we
don't see
return
any
from
need to have it, do
vacation.
you?
There isn't anything that's on the agenda that is new. It's really more of an update.
Right.
It is a, here's my thought. I may or may not be here in May. And I would certainly like to have a meeting to close things out and turn it over to Mrs. Reed if necessary. So I think it's important to meet, to be able to have that conversation where issues are. And then, you know, I don't think it's gonna be a long meeting, but I prefer that.
I don't mind, I just thought for them, if they can get anything together for us. What's your feeling about that meeting?
You tell me to show up, I'll show up. That said, the House Ways and Means
the numbers
budget
are
was
coming in.
released today.
Okay, so
We don't
we
have
have-
final information on
Okay,
regional
all right.
And I would do
transportation,
it
but
for
there will be a
Elaine
quick
because
update.
she wants to tie things
Regional
up.
transportation is, right now, House Ways and Means has put regional transportation at an
Okay.
80% reimbursement,
Okay.
circuit breakers
As long
at
as there's something
75.
to talk about, it's not just meetings for the sake of
No,
meetings.
it's just in order to make sure we know where we stand in the event, you know, I'm not at the next May meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so it's Budget and Finance Subcommittee Tuesday?
8:30.
April,
meet
okay, it
8:30.
was 9 on
Yeah, it's always
the, it's at 30. April 23rd, Shepherd Hill, and it's at 8:30 in the morning. Policy Review Subcommittee is Monday, April 29th.
It's actually Tuesday, April 30th.
Okay, so we'll change that to
Okay.
Tuesday,
And we.
April 30th.
And we're also planning one for May 6th.
May 6th.
And we're hoping that Mrs. Rabbit will be with us at that time. So
Okay.
I'm counting on it.
Yeah. And Mary, both at 9 a.m.?
No, the second one is at 1 p.m.
1 p.m., okay. May 6th is at 1 p.m., and the April 29th is at 9 a.m. And then our wage and benefits, if we want to, we are meeting on April 23rd, aren't we?
At 10:30, right?
At 10:30,
Internally at 10:30.
right.
Negotiation, do you want to know that one too?
Did you ask
Yes.
Dr. Nash, did you ask Kevin to make a few?
I did.
Negotiations,
Check in, so
what's
let me
the
know
date?
tonight.
The 12th.
The 12th?
Did
Okay,
you make it 3:15 instead?
Mr. Foley,
so let's get these straight.
Kevin,
the negotiating is 3:30.
can we change it to 3:30? Is that okay with you?
It was supposed to be at 3.
Yeah, but I can't get there till about, is that okay with 3:30 with you?
So you think
Okay.
3:30 is okay?
So it's
Okay,
April
thanks.
12th
It's
at
Friday.
3:30,
Thank you very
Correct.
much.
okay? And future agenda items, anybody? I'm
Just
sure
a ditto
you'll
from the
think
last
of
time.
plenty.
You're not even gonna be here.
Okay.
You're in Nashville.
Oh, can I just point out that I will not be at the April 24th meeting, I'll be away on a business trip.
Oh, you will?
So, just to
Yeah,
let
right.
everybody know, I won't be here on the 24th.
Business in Nashville?
I am going to Nashville.
Yay.
I love country
Token
music.
in Nashville.
Yeah.
It sounds like fun.
I love country music.
I do too, I always did.
I do too, when it wasn't when it wasn't popular.
We will be entering now into executive
You wanna go,
session
Mary?
to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with union personnel,
Sometimes it goes
Dudley-Charlton Teachers Association, and we will reconvene in open session to take votes if necessary and adjourn. I will take a roll call. Jamie?
Yes.
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 Yes. And that's it.